and ever-changing news, and computer terminology. Commodore news. Are you keeping up with the Commodore? 'Cause the Commodore is keeping up with you. Are you keeping up with the Commodore? 'Cause the Commodore is keeping up with you. Are you keeping up? 'Cause the Commodore is keeping up with you. Are you keeping up? 'Cause the Commodore is keeping up with you.
Hello and welcome to episode 37 of Zapped to the Past. My name is Adrian Mills and I'm joined as ever by Graham Raddings. If you haven't listened before, this is a podcast where we discuss games that were released for the Commodore 64. We are using the magazine Zap 64 as a monthly guide for the games to focus on, but we are in no way affiliated with Zap 64 itself. This week we're going to be looking at November 1986 and the first batch of games reviewed in issue 19 of Zap 64, along with what was also going on in UK music that month. Graham, tell us what dreamy delights we have coming up.
In this festive fruit jelly and Turkish delight field episode, we travel all around the world to participate in some throwing, lifting, jumping, diving, slapping and rolling with the globe-trotting events of World Games, play dreary futuristic zero-gravity ping-pong with the treacle speed vectors of Room 10, and try a look at the 8-bit casino craps table in the suggestive Miami dice. We also stick on an appy and smash everything we see in the naughty but not nice Jack the Nipper, and stiffen our upper lips, grab our daring do pants, and battle the Mekon with the impressive Dandare pilot of the future. If those festive treats haven't made your teeth itch quite enough, we also give our magic carpets a vax, polish our oil lamps, and get ready for untold riches with the Legend of Sinbad, take a dull trip to the beach with the ridiculous jump-em-up bicycle tomfoolery of Velocipede, take to the empty skies again, flying around again in the fancy cockpit world of Strikeforce Harrier, before finally going on a psychotropic-inspired, mushroom-fueled dash for truffles in the deranged Fungus. Remember, festive fruit jellies may look like fruit pastels, but they are not the same. They are just not the same.
Pleasant. So let's get on with them, because we've got loads. There's a lot of games. It's madness from here on, isn't it, with games?
Yes, there does appear to be quite a lot. It's prolific.
Yeah, there's something went on in the water in like middle of 1986 where everyone started making a game for the Commodore 64, and over the next few months it just goes crazy. Let's have the first of those, and a game that takes us all around the world, not like the song, but all around the world to play some games. Graham, tell us all about World Games.
World Games is the gold medal for this particular issue of Zap. Scored a whopping 98%. 98, let me just say that again.
Ooh, spicy meatball.
For something to be 98% and a gold medal, it's got to be something special, and I can guarantee that this is. So World Games is a multi-sport game in the vein of Summer Games 2 and all of that kind of thing, Winter Games, created by the same people, created by those masters of the multi-sport game, Epix. So this is building on the success of all of their previous games. Actually, more the success of Summer Games 2 and Winter Games, I think, perhaps a little bit. So the aim of this game is that you start by selecting your country of origin, and you can play multiplayer, and all of that kind of setup is the same as the worlds of Summer Games and Summer Games 2 and all of those things. This time you go around the world trying different events. There are 8 events, which are weightlifting in Russia, barrel jumping in Germany, cliff diving in Mexico, slalom skiing in France, log rolling in Canada, bull riding in the United States, caber tossing in Scotland, and sumo wrestling in Japan. So you can either choose to play the sports individually, it's obviously a multiplayer game, or you can play them all as consecutively. Again, with I think up to, I want to say 8 players.
You would be right in saying 8 players. So this is one of those games where they're all each in their own right, a kind of mini game. If you've played any of the Summer Games and everything else, you don't really need me to explain how this system works. So the games are controlled variously by waggling, pushing, up, down, left, jumping, just controlling the joystick in certain ways and certain methods to try and achieve the best score. And that's really the game in a nutshell. Now, the graphics for this game, each one of it was a big old game on disc, this. I think it was on 2 discs, maybe 2 discs, or at least certainly 2 full discs. Mm-hmm. And it's also on tape. And so each of these events is a load in its own right. But thank you, Epix, for your super fast loading. I think this might be Vorpal, I'm not sure, but it's such a fast loading game, it's kind of crazy. Mm-hmm. So there's never really a big difference, well, not say difference, but there's really never a big problem with playing this game. It's actually a really approachable tape disc game. And all the events are really good graphics, they're really fun, they're really excellent representations of the actual sports that they are. The events themselves quite easy. Once you know the controls, you then go through the kind of journey that you go through with the summer games, where you actually can get better at this game just by sort of mastering the timing and sort of getting the moves right, and you progress through the game. Each one of these games, because each one is a single load, so each one of these individual games is actually a brilliant little game in its own right. They're quite funny in their own way. They've got little funny, quirky animations. The weightlifter, for example, wiggles his fingers just before he's about to lift the weight. And there's just little touches in these games that make it really good. I think the cliff diver leans over and looks over the cliff, doesn't he? And then if you get the dive wrong, he kind of floats to the bottom. So there's a really good epic sense of humour to this game all the way through. Some of the events aren't as successful as the others in terms of just the way they play. They're all really good, but some of them just aren't quite as good as the others. I don't know that the bull riding is that successful, but it's okay. I think some of them, I think for me, the one that I find the most difficult perhaps is the log rolling. I find it takes a while to get good at that. It is actually graphically really good, but it takes a while to get good at it. So you've got great graphics, really well designed mini sports games, really all the usual epics capturing of the scores and all the rest of it. On top of that, you've got some really amazing sound effects and sounds in this game, including, I would argue, the best bagpipe sound I think I've ever heard on a synthesizer ever. So it's got everything, and I think it's possibly the greatest multi-sports game that was ever created for the Commodore 64. In fact, I'd go on the record of saying it is the greatest sports game. Epics do others as well after this, including California games, but it was never this good, and I still play this to this day. In fact, I was only playing this at the weekend with my young lad who really, really likes it, and turns out he's really, really good at the barrel jumping, like really crazy good, so which was kind of annoying. So I really, really like it. I have always liked World Games. It's my favourite out of all the epic sports, multi-sport games by a long way. So what else is there to say? It's an astonishing achievement. And I think it comes on the C64 Maxi. I think it's built in, I seem to recall. I think it's built into the actual...
I think it's on the Maxi and the Mini, I think
it's on the Mini and the Maxi. So it just kind of a testament to how good a game it really is. But that's my 2 pence worth. What about you?
Yeah, I'm not going to disagree with you, really, in most aspects. As ever with these sports games, I recorded my scores for my playthrough, and I got 150 kilograms on the snatch for the weightlifting, and I got 0 for the clean and jerk. I kept getting the final... I couldn't quite master the final jerk.
Couldn't
should
jerk.
we say? I could clean very well, but not jerk.
You could, well, that's on your Tinder profile, to be fair. So
it is, yes, and I'm proud of that. I'm proud of that. I really am. I was also proud. I did 12 at the barrel jumping, which wasn't too bad. I used to be a lot better, I do remember, but that was 12. Cliff diving, I got 74. Slalom, I missed 11 gates and got a fault. That slalom's
really hard,
dead hard.
It is really stupidly hard.
It's really rock hard. Barrel rolling, I got the rank of rubbish. I just couldn't get the hang of it and faulted every time.
And the log rolling, you mean?
Yeah, it's barrel. Don't
go rolling out the barrels. What you would East End.
Log rolling. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's probably why I was rubbish at it. It's the wrong thing. I'm log rolling.
In the wrong country.
Anyway, I was rubbish at it, no matter what I was rolling on. Bull riding, I faulted at that because I didn't take time to learn the controls. Kyber toss, I got 35 feet and 9 inches.
That's good for a caber toss. That's really good.
That's not bad. And I lost repeatedly at the sumo.
I kept trying to make it land on his toe so it made him hop around in pain, though, on the caber toss, because I do like the little animations.
There's loads of them. It's like if you're barrel jumping, if you don't pull the legs down after at the bottom, and he turns blue in the ice.
That's right.
If you don't drop the weights, his face turns through various shades of red.
Yeah.
If you just smack into the bottom of the water in the cliff diving, it's just so painful.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's loads of really cool stuff in this, and it is very, very good. And it's it's different to the previous games, which were, I wouldn't say serious and po-faced, but this has a much more sort of wacky out there sense of humor about it, because I don't think it's trying to simulate. This is the trans world sport of this series.
It is,
or your world of sport. So I would imagine Dickie Davis would be presenting this one, whereas the summer games and winter games would be on Grandstand.
Yeah.
So this is you turn to ITV and you've got World Games, because that's what you'd get, and you can imagine Dickie Davis telling you all about them. As you went through a Saturday afternoon, and you never knew where you were going to end up. Sometimes you're in France doing slaloms, and the next time you're in Japan watching some sumo. So I kind of like that about this, and the fact that it doesn't take itself very seriously, but is still excellent through and through. It still has that top-notch epics polish, sheen, whatever one want to call it, and any other kind of pledge. I don't know, any other kind of polish type you can think of. It's got it on it. It's just lathered with it. Someone's really come up with this and buffed it to a fine shine.
Yes,
all the corners are smoothed off. Everything works. It's lovely to look at and listen to.
It was clearly really well play tested. Many other games take note. Do that. Test your games a lot, because then when you do that, you find all the little problems with them, and then you can release it without those in.
That's true. And there's a lot strange though. I mean, quite a few people did work on this. It's quite a big team for the time.
I spotted that.
So that's, that is something going on there. Epic's obviously put a lot of effort into this, had a lot of people on it for the time. It's a team of about sort of 12 or 13 people, isn't it? Something like that, which is, big for the time. That's a massive team.
It is.
So, and you've got a year really between this and Winter Games, isn't it? It's about a year. I think that was November, wasn't it? November, December last year. So there is, they've had the time. There's a lot of people working on this, and it shows. It shows in every aspect of it, from the visuals to the sound, which is all great. The presentation. I don't know if again, I would have liked to have seen maybe a different menu.
I don't know. I think if it works, it works.
It does what it does, but it's a bit bare bones and plain in comparison to everything else about the game, with the sort of travelogue and stuff. Just would have maybe something they could have spruced up a little bit. I don't know. It's still the same.
They could have updated the anthem sounds.
Yeah,
at least
true sort of thing. But the anthems are the anthems, aren't they? I don't get too fussed about them. Some crazy tunes, but like you said, that bagpipes music is nothing short of astonishing.
Absolutely mind blowing. That.
It's that's Tim Follin, Ghost and Ghouls level of quality of sound coming out of the SID chip.
Yes.
So it's quite incredible. So when it comes down to this, this is a cracking sports sim. Personally, I have to say that I think I will always err on the side of Summer Games 2.
Crazy person.
I know. I just think Summer Games 2, just either I played it a lot more. There's something, I don't know, there's something in Summer Games 2 that I always liked. And don't get me, I love them all. I love Winter Games, World Games, Summer Games 2. They're all brilliant. But for me, Summer Games 2 is always, I always found the pinnacle. Not that this isn't brilliant, this is better than, and was it worth the 98%? Yeah, probably. The 99% it gets, and all those big old scores. It's a brilliant game, and I'm not going to knock it. There is nothing to knock. I just think that, as you pointed out, I am not sure, because apart from the equestrian, which is a bit of I think all the other games in Summer Games 2 are almost perfect. There's a couple in here, and like you said, the log rolling is a kind of weird sort of thing, and the slalom's a bit hardish. The sumo is twitchy, and there are these little issues with it that just like, ugh. So I do love it. I just love Summer Games 2 more, and always have. But if you're going to play if you're going to go watch World of Sport, then this is a brilliant sort of version of that, I think.
Well, yeah, because I suppose at least this has all the events in it are completely unique to each other, whereas Summer Games 2, at least two of the events in it are kind of the same kind of event, aren't they? Or similar.
Which ones?
So isn't or am I thinking of Winter Games with the ice? You've got the ice skating, which there's two events in Summer Games that are kind of, what are the events in Summer Games 2?
Summer Games 2, there's triple jump, javelin, high jump, rowing, equestrian, fencing, kayaking, and there's another one as well, which I can't quite remember.
I think it's always felt like maybe there's a bit of a curse. I was thinking that there was some events that were similar, but I think I was thinking of Winter Games where you've got the ice skating and it's actually kind of twice.
There's the two ice skatings, and there's only 7 events in Winter Games. So Winter Games is the
weaker link, isn't it? Really?
Yes, and that's what I mean. This is the return to Summer Games 2 level. I mean, it's hard. I mean, if you put me in front of a computer and said play Winter Games and World Games, I'm not going to go, I'd rather play Summer Games 2.
Well, no, I don't. I think there's little bits, like you say, like the opening and closing of the games and things like that. It just sort of doesn't have that in this. It doesn't. But I think it doesn't have that. It makes up for it kind of in the quality of the games in there, because some of these are genuinely a lot better than the presentation of the games in Summer Games 2. But then again, we're a year down the line, aren't we? Or a year plus. So.
Yeah, year and a half in comparison to that. But
bigger team and all that. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we're splitting hairs. I mean, it's
that was the 9th event they never put in.
The hair splitting. Is that like chopping a rabbit in the middle?
Sounds painful. I don't know what country would host that. I don't know, but
I don't know. Probably us.
North Korea.
No, it'd probably be us with a fox hunting or something.
Oh God, no! Don't put that in there.
No, don't put that in there. But yeah, so I'm not knocking this. This is a brilliant game, and I think it's clear our verdict on this is go play it. Whatever you got it on, whether it's on the mini, the maxi,
for
whatever.
Reals
for reals is on real hardware. Whatever. World Games is worth your time.
Yeah,
go play it.
Absolutely.
There you go. Indeed. Here we go. We love World Games. It's great.
It is.
More than we like the next one, I'm going to guess. I love how that should be our catchphrase. It used to be let's move on. Now it's more than we like the next one. Because every time we do it, we go, oh, we love that. And then we go more than the next one. And then probably less than. Anyway, let's go to the next one, shall we? Because I've got that one. Aren't I lucky?
No.
So our next one is Room 10.
It scored 15%, and it was a full price game, $9.95. And according to the review, this is by the same guy who did the Spectrum version and originally designed Tau Ceti. It said in the review. I don't know. I couldn't find any info for it. I was like, oh, this is weird. But so this is Room 10. So this is a futuristic sports sim where you control a bat and have to hit a ball back across a 3D space. I don't know who I'm trying to kid here. Someone has decided that Pong needs to be in 3D, and that would make it better. Am I wrong? That's what this is? This is Pong in 3D?
I suppose real ping pong is in actual
it is,
three dimensions.
But this is actual
like
two square bats. Not like this. No, God, no. This is a horrible version of the Matrix, again, that we've seemed to have entered into, where you live in a box with bats that move very slowly, because it would be all right if it didn't move at our, patented treacle speed, which this does. And I'll tell you how much this game annoyed me, right? There are different speeds to select from the menu, and these go from Adagio to Adente to Moderato to Allegro to Vivace to Presto. I don't want to have to consult a music dictionary to understand the speed of your game.
No, and it won't help.
No, because none of them seem the same anyway.
No.
I don't know. My definition of a brisk pace is not the same as this game's.
No.
Because that's what I looked up, and that's what presto means, as far as I believe. I'm not up on these Italian terms for musical tempos, should we say.
Don't apply to a vector-based 3D ping pong simulator. I'm pretty sure.
No, they only apply to music.
Generally,
there's a reason for that. Yeah. So no, you couldn't just put slow, slightly slow, because it'd just be all the words slow. It'd be slow, slower, very slow, turgid, treacle, swamp. I don't know what else there would be. Hobbling. So this, and I don't know why it's called Room 10. Did you get that?
Isn't there something to do with the essence of the actual sport? I don't know.
So you can change the colour scheme. There's loads of little options. You change the colour scheme, but the in-game visuals, it's vector graphics. Change the colour scheme, but they're still white. It's still white lines.
Yeah.
It's just drab as anything. It's slow wireframe box to move in. What? My issue with this was like, when you look at, because obviously it's split screen, but when you look at Ball Blazer, and you look at that and the speed and the pace and the smoothness of something like Ball Blazer, which this is reminiscent of, two things moving around, batting a ball back, and this ain't even moving the actual 3D space very much.
No.
There's no space for this. There's just nothing. There's no reason for this to exist. I don't understand it. And for £9.95, oh my good Lord.
What is that stink?
It's I don't know, room stench. That's what this is.
It is.
Yeah, so I didn't like Room 10. I thought it was a pointless effort to make Pong in 3D. Pong is at this point 14 years old. It's ping pong. We've had ping pong games. We've reviewed 2 of them, and this is a terrible, terrible attempt to do something with it, which is pointless and utterly nonsensical, and I thought it was crap in every way. How about you?
What can you add, really? This game is so fundamentally flawed in both physics and logic that the person who actually made this game must have suffered a seizure and a breakdown at the same time. The idea of setting a ping pong game in low gravity is just the stupidest thing in the world, because it defeats the purpose of a fast game if it's in zero gravity, because it's going to immediately be at the same pace for everybody. You can't hit something in zero gravity any harder than it's going to go through zero gravity. So this game, even though, and the idea of being able to make a game like this have speeds, what's the point? You can't play it. If you went to a tennis match with two of the world's most famous tennis players, said, right, I want you to keep all your serves at exactly 25 mile an hour. No faster than that. This ball cannot go any faster than that. It would defeat the purpose of playing exciting tennis, wouldn't it? Hence the reason why there is no excitement in this dreary game. Just adding the stupid logic. So this is apparently the Gal Corp. This is the premise.
Don't go there. Don't. It's not worth it.
Well, the reason I mention it is because they're a corporation that invented a new sport to be played in low gravity rooms. This means that for some reason, all these people live in a world where there are rooms with low gravity. Why does that even happen? Why would you have a room with low gravity? Unless you just want to feel heavy for an hour or something. Just up in the lounge. I need to feel at least 2 or 3 kilos heavier, so I'm just going to go in the low gravity room for a bit. Have trouble walking around and make all my bones rot away. So, alternatively, just float around and anyway, it doesn't matter, does it? So yeah, it's a kind of a 3D Pong, isn't it? But kind of in that, I also made a note of it. It felt a little bit air hockey as well, I think. Yeah,
there is a bit of that, but air hockey played at such a slow speed sort of thing, that again, you're playing air hockey in zero G, which is pointless.
It's just not, is it? Well, the thing is, the reason I thought it was, I think it sounded like air hockey because it had the kind of air hockey sounds. Looked like a crap 3D Pong because vector graphics, just no, your first mistake was vector graphics. And then it just failed it because it was just A, slow, B, slow, and C, slow. And it just felt kind of oddly unfinished as well because it just kind of went game. Because that opening screen comes on when you choose the options and it's all a bit perfunctory. And then you get through that and you get presented with this sort of backwards and forwards gravity blob, and you're like, just make this nonsense disappear, please. Go to zero gravity. You know, go in a black hole and never come out. So, of course, that's actually the opposite of zero gravity. That's an immense amount of gravity. But you get my idea.
Yeah, that's all the gravity. That's all the gravity.
Well, this game belongs in a sinkhole. So
stink hole.
It is. Put it up someone's stink hole. Anyone's, but not mine.
Rooms. That's why it's room stench.
It is. It's just, you know,
it's like someone's dropped a room stench.
So, you know, I don't care who programmed it. He was having a bad day, or they were having a bad day. So adios, room 10. Thanks for all the fish. Get lost.
Yeah.
Crap.
Yeah, that's that. Yeah, we don't like room 10. No. And why room 10 either as well? Why? What goes on in room 1?
Room 101 is where that game's bloody going.
I was thinking that, yeah, this needs to be flushed down the toilet and just never spoken of again.
This game could block the C64 toilet pipes for some time, so let's flush and flush again.
Yeah, all right. There we go, room crap. Let's move on quickly. Well, I don't know. This got a much higher score, but I'm not sure why. Graham, tell us about the appallingly... And this isn't even us giving the pun here. the appallingly titled Miami Dice.
So, Miami Dice, everyone. Oh, okay.
You suck.
The Dice Miami. Get off.
Get off.
So this is a casino game. It's a version of the game Craps from a casino. And Craps is basically a dice game, isn't it? Where you think that 2 dice are thrown and then you bet on the outcome of the throw after that, I think, or something like that. I don't really know the full rules of Craps, and I'd never want to. And so there's all sorts of various outcomes of the dice you can bet on. So, you know... It's in the casino, I imagine. It's probably exciting. There's probably all sorts of, you know, gangster types all crowded around the table, blowing on the dice and throwing them, and getting the really pretty lady to the left and the really good-looking guy to the right to blow on the dice, of course. And then roll them and all that. I imagine all that's crazy. What you presented with this is kind of a craps table at the bottom, and the graphics aren't awful. They're just not ace. So there's a craps table. You wouldn't know it was a craps table. And by the way, you would never know this was craps unless you know about craps. So it's...
Yeah, because there's no explanation.
No, it's just
nothing.
People,
it's like, there you go.
I think 5 or 6 people. I think you can choose how many people. Well, you can choose your character at the start. This is what Baphomet says: enter your name, but you can't actually enter your own name. I think you can only. You can edit the character. I think you can pick a character from Charlie Chan, and then you can edit. So you can choose the character look, but you can give it anyway. It doesn't matter really. You all end up in a line at the back of the craps table, and then each person then takes a turn throwing the dice and betting on the outcome and going around. You go. So it's another sort of, and I have trouble with casino and gambling games in general. Not because one because I'm rubbish at gambling anyway, and I mean genuinely really bad. I once bet on a dog track, and the dog dropped dead before it even left the blocks. That's a true story. It did. It just died. That was at the Doncaster or Sheffield dog track, but it just died. So I'm not known for my luck.
I shouldn't laugh. That's a dead dog.
Yeah, it was horrific at the time, but I knew I'd done that. It's like my jinx had struck. So I generally don't play casino and gambling games of any kind. So when they come up like this, I don't have that gene. I don't have that thing in me that gets interest from these things. Now I know that that's not applicable to everybody, because I've gone in the pub before now and seen one guy stood in front of the slot machine. See, I don't even know what they're called. Stood in front of the bandit. Fruit machine, whatever the bloody hell they're called. The ones where you can... Yeah, fruit machine. Seen some people stood there pumping money in, and then money pumps out, and they pump money in. And I get all that. Maybe that's for them, but it ain't for me. So, but this is, I suppose... It's not that you're going to hone skills at craps with this, because it's an outcome-based thing, so it's just random dice rolls, really. There's a little bit of animation when they roll the dice and all of that, but other than that, it held no interest to me, because I'm not into this sort of stuff. Dave Whittaker's soundtrack was okay. The sound in the game's okay. The graphics aren't awful, but they're not terrible, but they're kind of what they are. It's kind of one screen of stuff and a little bit of selection here and there. So if you know how to play craps and you like it, and if that kind of is your thing, and if you like that kind of game, then maybe this for $2.99 is something that you would have gone for. It would have helped if they'd have put what it was on the box instead of come up with some gimmicky Miami Vice sort of pun, because it means nothing to anybody. People might buy this thinking it was some kind of... Because they don't even play this in Miami. This is played in Vegas, and it doesn't really matter, does it? It's geographically challenged at best anyway. So, not for me, this one. $2.99. It might be cheap for a gambling game. It's certainly cheaper than pumping loads of coins into a gambling machine of any description, but since I don't do either of those things, this game is another turd on the plate, I'm afraid. So wash it away. Wash away. Go away. Go away, Miami Dice. What is that? But you?
I hated this. So there's so many things wrong with it. What does it say at the start? What is that speech?
Oh, of course, I forgot about the speech.
They're coming out. Or does it say "Welcome to the house"? I couldn't work it out. I presume it says. I think it says they're coming out, and then I got presented with "Sexy Susie" or whatever. And I thought they are coming out.
Sexy Susie.
There's a problem here, or whatever it was. And I have to comment on the hand action animation.
It was I didn't want to say anything because it's
no. I think we should. We should be fair and even in our review here, sort of thing. Because essentially, this is let's just say somebody has been watching early 1980s adult movies. When they've looked at how people throw dice, because they've obviously never been to a casino and watched how people throw dice. What they've been watching is other kinds of hand action. There's no other way. I can't put it any more politer.
No.
Okay, I know this is we're not a blue podcast, should we say? But there's certain things in that I watched when it first started, and I've moved the joystick back and forth, and I think I was Larry Hagman played it, and I was like, what am I looking at here?
Did it feel a bit uncomfortable when you're waggling your joystick? And
it did, because next to me was Sexy Susie, and it was just all kinds of wrong. It was awful. I was like, oh my god, this is really bad.
Blank, dead-eyed expressions when they're doing it that scared me. I'm like, oh god, that's chilling.
But it's not just the blank, dead-eyed expressions. It's like some of them, like they look shiftily left and right as well. So it's like they know that what's going on is slightly dubious. So it's like going, what they're doing? Like the sprites are in on the fact that this is some kind of a blue movie adventure. Yeah. So I guess this is craps. Yeah. I guess because I didn't know. Because there's no introduction, there's nothing to tell me. And I didn't really have any idea. I was throwing a dice, people were putting stuff on the board. the guy with the stick every now and again would go, they're coming out! And then pull the thing back. And I had no idea what the bloody hell was going on. And I think the main problem I have with these kind of games, we've seen a few of them now, I don't get the point.
No.
I literally do not understand these virtual gambling games because there's nothing to win. So Sam Fox Strip Poker, the video poker we saw, has there been other ones? There was another one, I think, there as well.
I erased them from my mind.
God-awful nightmare. So there's nothing to win and there's no skill involved. And the thrill of these games in real life is the gambling. It's the winning and losing. It's the I've put money on, so the visceral thrill of the dopamine hit is trying to get, will I get some money back? Have I done something bad, or have I won some things, like betting on a football game or betting on a horse or on the dogs if you don't kill them. All this kind of thing is the point of gambling. So when there's no money involved, when it's nothing, it's all virtual and none of it matters. The game doesn't matter. There's no point to this. Yeah. I've put in here, the in-game visuals are okay, the music's not terrible. It is just all terribly, terribly pointless.
Yeah.
And I just don't understand it, because surely everybody had some dice back then. We were a nation of dice owners. Every board game you had gave you 10 dice. It's just like, you walking in the shop, have some dice. You have some. There's just people were throwing dice at you. So everyone had dice. So you could play this yourself with your friends or without. And that's what, if you wanted to play craps, there was better options. Just play it with your friends, because there's no point to this. There's no point to a virtual gambling sim, and I don't understand these. And how the hell this got 72%?
Well, I think there must be closet gamblers. Oh, they're all in rehab or something, and this is a way of helping them. I don't know. I'm like you. I don't get it. I don't really get it.
I've had a heavy week at work, and I think it's coming out.
No, I totally get it. I mean, it's just not these. I don't get it. I don't understand. But I'm not, and I'm guessing you're not as well. If I had the gene in me that was liking this sort of thing, maybe I'd play it. But
I bet on football games. I play the fruit machines. I'm quite happy to do them to an extent. I'll play poker with people for money. I have done lots of times in the past. I don't mind a small bit of gambling. That's the thrill. There's no thrill in these.
No.
And what they are is single screen bore-a-thons where nothing's going on apart from some dubious hand movements. And so Miami Dice is just awful. Awful. They're all awful. They're all bad. Yeah. I don't like one of them.
No, I absolutely agree. It got such a high rating for such a crappy one-dimensional game. I don't get it. But like I say, the reviewers must have all been into craps. This game is a load of crap in my book. But
they're coming out.
Not anymore.
No, it's terrible. Awful.
There was a lot of dice around in the mid-80s, wasn't there? It's funny you say that, because it just made me think, like, I've still got them. Every now and again, I'll open a box and there's just dice in the corner. I'm like, how did you get there? What did I get you with? Where did you come from?
People had Monopoly. People had Game of Life.
But you only get 2 dice max with those. I had a bag. I'm like, where did this bag of dice come from?
Because you had multiple games.
Yeah. Well, do you know what?
And every game came with at least 2 dice. Sometimes came with 3.
How's this for freaky? One of the dice, instead of having like your traditional blobs on it, like for the numbers, this had actual numbers on it, like the number 5 and the number 6. I was like, who makes a dice like that? Who makes a dice that has numbers on it?
Don't know.
I mean, in Dungeons and Dragons, I get it, 20-sided dice. You're going to need 20 numbers on that.
You know, and if you had a couple of if you had Risk, you got 5 dice with that.
Yeah, true. Maybe we were a closed closet nation of Dungeons and Dragons, but D6s, as they're affectionately known, they were quite the mainstay of Dungeons and Dragons until you got the. Did you ever manage to successfully toss a D4? I'm just curious to know, because if anyone who listens to this has ever done that, I want to know exactly how you do it, because you have to go for this kind of inverted flip for the pyramid, don't you? Like, well, it's a pyramid. You're like,
yeah, you've got to. Yeah,
you can't roll a D4. It's not rollable. So ever tell me anyone who just roll a dice? I cannot roll a D4. It's not possible.
And the weird thing is, you have to look at the bottom and see what number isn't on it as to what the result is.
Oh, don't. Yeah, that's right. It's the one underneath. So the one it lands on is the one it is underneath. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but then it would have 3 numbers on, like 1, 2, 3. Okay, well the result is 4.
Oh God, no.
And then on the other side, it would say 4, 3, 2, 4, 2, 1, and 1, 3, and 1, 3, 4, and it would be the number that's missing. And I'm like, why didn't you just put the number on?
Yeah. Which reminds me,
just write
you
2.
get a similar sort of thing inside them Magic 8 balls, don't you? Do you remember them Magic 8? They have a little D4 hidden inside. I once got 2 of those for Christmas. How indecisive does that make somebody? Because they never agreed. It was like having 2 old ladies. Check it on one of them. It's like, oh, not today. Check it on. Definitely. I'm like, well, what do I do? Stupid Magic 8 balls that aren't trustworthy.
It's like eating multiple, fortune cookies.
Exactly.
You can't. They just contradict each other. So you'll be lucky in love. You will die alone.
I blame the reason why I ate 2 meters of Jaffa cakes on the lucky shake of one of those stupid Magic 8 balls, and I was sick as a dog. Let me tell you, never do that. Never do that. And that was a lot of Jaffa cakes.
What was the result?
I was sick. I said, should I eat?
No, what did the 8 balls say?
I asked the question, should I eat 2 meters of Jaffa? I got 2 meters of Jaffa cakes for Christmas one year. You know the big long meter patch you can get. So I had 2 meters of Jaffa cakes, and I wrote said as a laugh, I was like, shall I eat them in one go? Thinking that this Magic 8 ball, by the way, had never come up as, because I'm not the kind of guy that gets a look in that, so he never came up with anything other than don't do it, not today. And then this one day, it was like, yeah, go for it. I'm like, oh, great, now I've got to eat 2 meters of Jaffa cakes, which I did. And I was sick. Sick as a dog.
You didn't have to.
The Magic 8 Ball had spoken, and do not ever not do what the Magic 8 Ball says. Are you crazy? Goodness me. It was on Christmas as well. It's like there's too many jinxes coming together for me not to do that. Anyway.
You keep saying 2 meters, and all I'm hearing is 2 meats.
I filled the toilet bowl with Jaffa puke. It was the most disgusting substance ever. But it smelled really nice. The first time my vomit has ever smelled edible.
Oh, vomited? I thought you just pooed it out. I thought it was like a lovely Jaffa orangey bit in the toilet.
Like a long 2 meter Jaffa cake came out.
I was just thinking of just a tube of orange.
No.
It's like and you could bend it round and make a hula hoop out of it. Your hula hoop smells wrong.
The human body is not capable of storing 2 meters of Jaffa cake in anywhere. It's longer than your long intestine. Not. It is. I'm telling you, it is. I could feel him in my throat. So, anyway, and I'm pretty sure that I feel it in my fingers, I feel it in my toe song. It's actually about eating 2 meters of Jaffa cakes. Anyway, all of that is way better than Miami Dice. So
that reminds me of the time when I ate 2 13-inch pepperoni pizzas in one go, and the world took on and I saw the world like Jimi Hendrix, because it had a purple haze.
you turned into a flat earther for 2 hours because everything you saw was like flat like a pizza.
Yeah, it was just purple haze. It was just I had pepperoni behind my eyeballs. It's not.
I bet you were farting on purple haze. I knew you would have been.
Never ever eat 2 13-inch pepperoni pizzas. Well, Domino's had just an offer on. I'd be a fool to say no.
Buy one, get one free? Oh, go on then. Do I have to eat it? Yes, you do. We've just rolled a Magic 8 Ball in the back.
Magic 8 Ball. Says, you will die. Oh, looks like I'm going to eat them.
Take the Magic 8 Ball seriously. I got rid of mine in the end. I had to hide them. I got rid of them so I could never be challenged.
It's not like the thing out of Big. It's not like Zoltar.
Let me tell you, don't mess with a Magic 8 Ball. They know stuff, and I had to get rid of it because I had 2 of them, and I was like, "What?" It was like having an Annabelle doll. It was like cursing my life, so I had to get rid of them. So I did. I left one on a train. Sorry for the people that found it. These are true stories. I left one on a train to Newcastle, and the other one's on a tube somewhere in London. And that was the last time I saw him, and I never want to see him again.
It sounds like Dice Man. You ever had Dice Man?
Yes.
It sounds like that.
Yes. Anyway, I shouldn't have even mentioned it. They'll come back.
But what I can tell you though is Miami Dice is crap.
Dog egg.
So yeah, egg of the dog. Let's move on. To our final game this section before we move into the music, and our final game is Jack the Nipper. That's a funny name, isn't
hilarious.
It's not based on a. It's not based on a horrible mass murderer from the 1880s. No, not all. Oh, Jack the Ripper. Yeah, let's turn him into a child in a baby grow.
Mischievous child, yes.
Okay, that's okay. It's the 80s. Anything goes.
At least they didn't call it Kid Ripper, because that'd have been horrible.
Yeah, or Kid Nipper.
None of those things are good.
None of them. Nick the Kid. A flick screen, pick up the object to put the object somewhere else-a-thon.
Yeah, sums it up.
It's what this is. And you raise a bar in order to complete the game with wandering enemies that raise your rash level, because Jack the Nipper is the adventures of a small baby in a baby grow who wanders about a town being naughty by doing stuff, by breaking things and picking stuff up and going through things and putting stuff together and solving little puzzles. I did wonder something, and just if you could clarify this, because I was going to look it up, but I couldn't be bothered. It seems like a faster version of Everyone's a Wally. Was Jack a character from the Everyone's a Wally games?
I don't think so.
Was he the baby?
I don't think so, but it could be. It could be. I can look it up. and see, but I'm not sure.
I don't know, but I don't know, because there was a baby in those, wasn't there? I don't know if it was Jack the Nipper. I didn't know. So. Oh, no, because I suppose the kid one was that Pajama-rama?
Yes, but I genuinely don't know.
Oh, well, don't matter. Anyways, but this is this is like Everyone's a Wally, but it's a bit more 3D. So you've got this like pseudo 3D effect where you can move in and out of the screen. Every screen has enemies that wander about. Some will home in on you. Some are adults who just don't pay you any heed. So, okay, whatever. It's quite nice to look at. The sprites are quite good in that sort of C64 medium res style. The animation on Jack is okay. The characters that wander about are sort of caricaturish, and they look quite decent. I liked the fact, although it kind of was a bit annoying, but I kind of get it, and I thought it was, okay, that's quite good. To get the tune, the Ben Daglish tune playing, you got to combine the Walkman and the headphones, and when you do that, it gets the tune playing, and that's quite a decent tune. But, in the end, it's got, the pleasant visuals and the nice sound. They can't hide what this is. It's another wander the screen, finding stuff, jumping around, and the jumping as well seemed a little arbitrary. Sometimes you would land on a desk, or sometimes you wouldn't. It was never quite right. I never quite felt like I knew when I was going to jump where I was going to land because of the 3D-ness to it. So it didn't quite have that. There's some annoyances which I didn't like as well. I didn't like having to press return to go through doors. I just wanted why can't I just press up when I'm next to him, when I'm at that point, go through. It's not terrible. It's not a bad version of one of these. It's quite nice. It got 75%, probably about right for the time, I think. If you like arcade adventures, you gotta probably like this. But, by this point, I've just seen too many of these that do it, that don't really have anything else to sort of say for them, and it just found this a bit interminable, really, for me. It's just another one. Like you said, ages before, I don't want to collect the fish, walk 20 screens to put the fish in the bowl, and I just didn't want to do that in this, no matter what the cutesiness appeal of it was, and I just found it a bit boring in the end. So that was my take of Jack the Nipper. I don't really remember liking it back then either. So I know I did play it back then, but again, I just and these kind of games are not me getting bored of them now. I never took to them back then. I was never a big wander around collecting stuff fan. No. In most things, I found it quite dull and tedious and boring, and I still to this day hate respawning pointless, boring enemies. So that's me. That's where I come from. Jack the Nipper, no, wasn't for me really. Was it for you? Did you enjoy your time playing as a child, wandering about causing mayhem?
No, I didn't really. It's not the kind of games that really appeal to me in that kind of 2D, 3D sort of depth illusion thing. Yeah, you've got to get your naughtyometer, which is like, oh, right, okay, we're okay. Well, from my experience of this game, I kept walking around, picking stuff up and dropping it and breaking it. And that was kind of, variously shooting my pea shooter at people and then red-faced and then chased me around and getting nappy rash as they spanked me as a child. I was like, okay, I'm still getting a bit odd. And so...
What's the 80s?
Yeah, and it's just, wander through the different screens. the enemies, there's no real logic to them. They just kind of float around in there, getting in the way and just being annoying. I felt the sound effects on the jump and stuff like that were just, after a while, really got to me, because it was just like, every time you jump, like, you get that little kind of thing. And I was just like, I'm pressing 1 and 2 to put things in my pockets and, like you say, return. It just felt a little bit clunky. And I think my biggest complaint was, after a while, and well, not even really at any point, but it just, the whole game just lacked, considering it's meant to be a little kid running around being naughty, just was no fun to this game. It just felt dreary. The novelty of firing a pea shooter wore off in 2 seconds, and then wander around picking up the thing to take it to the thing. And the classic thing of that is, pick up the Walkman and the headphones and, hey, presto, you get music. I'm like, oh, well, so what? Music is about the best thing in it when you do get it. The rest of it, the graphics are okay. Kind of that, got that sort of medium resi bits. He's kind of a high resi thing. There was a bit of sort of weird colour bleed around the edges of some of them as well, which I don't know. They're okay. The graphics were fine. And this is, I think, a Spectrum conversion, I think, as well. So, but at least they didn't just convert the Spectrum game. So they did actually redraw some of the graphics, and it had a bit more C64 about the colour. So, okay, I'll give it a little bit of do there. But it's $9.95 for this. Well, there's a lot of other cheaper wander around, pick them up and drop the thing and do the thing games, Spellbound and stuff like that. If you like that kind of game where you do that kind of thing, there's plenty of other games for cheaper that do better. So, nah. I thought it was just dull. Over time, it became dull. It is big. There's a lot of map. It is kind of samey looking, but there is a lot of map, and there is probably a lot of stuff to do. But I was bored within 5 minutes of wandering around looking for headphones for my Walkman, and when I found them, I'm like, oh, wow. And then I was like, you know what? This game's going to be more of this, isn't it? Now, off it goes. Goodbye. By that point, I was so sick of that. It was bloody sound effects. I was ready to switch it off anyway. So
yeah, indeed. Do you know what this reminded me of as well? It reminded me of Ghetto Blaster.
Yes, actually, yeah.
That similar kind of street vibe, urban street vibe thing.
Yes, actually, you got a very good point.
That kind of look.
Yes. In fact, I would say probably Ghetto Blaster was probably better.
Yeah, probably. Had a bit more of an interesting concept to it, didn't it? Yeah. But this was just a bit, and I think it was just trading on the fact that you're a baby.
Well, there's no wider thing to this, is there? There's no, you just want to be the naughtiest. It's not like, there's no real mission to this game. It's just, just do naughty stuff. And how naughty can you be by just, after you've thrown the sick thing off top of a thing to break it, and maybe combined a couple of things, nothing really fantastic happens. So, no, there's no payoff to this game. I think that's my big annoyance. Everything he did never felt like it had a real payoff or anything. So, and if a game's doing that, big things need to happen if you combine things. There's games that do this way better with lots more, even introducing mini games into this, a bit like Frankie Goes to Hollywood, would have been more preferable. Just wandering around screen after screen after screen, picking up a pot plant and dropping it on the floor. Oh, yeah, your naughty-ometer's gone up by 0.3 of a fraction.
Yeah, there were some special screens that weren't there where you could get to like these little platforming screens, which were a bit more different, but they just felt more of the same. They weren't doing something different, like you said with Frankie Goes to Hollywood, where you had a completely different mechanic suddenly introduced and a whole new style of play.
It was missing something, and I think that what for me it was missing was fun. So
for all its chirpy cheekiness, it just didn't feel in any way sort of particularly enjoyable.
Just no fun.
Yeah, there we go. So Jack the Nipper is not very good. Well, it's okay. If you're into these sort of things, it's probably going to float your boat because, that's what it is. Unfortunately, as we found over the period of 30-odd episodes now, that these kind of things, more sink our ship rather than float our boat. They do, absolutely.
You sunk my battleship.
Jack the Nipper, he sunk my battleship. How dare you?
How dare you?
You're a very naughty boy, Jack the Nipper, for sinking my battleship. Anyway, on that note, that's it. That's your games for this first section. We loved world games. We hated the rest.
Yes.
I think is the summation. Room 10, oh God. Miami Dice, A, and Jack the Nipper. So there you go. Your sound reviews this week. So stay with us. We'll be back very soon where we'll be looking at music in November 1986. To our sponsor, DavidHearnWriter.com, where you'll find stories influenced by classic games from the Commodore 64 and Amiga. Take the case of the notorious Roboticist, which features Benson, a comedic robot, trapped as a slave on a ship named Targ. If only he could find that Nova Drive. On a more serious note, the story explores bias in AI and misandry versus equality. Which will win the day? Join Gumshoe Moros and come on an adventure. Visit DavidHearnWriter.com. That's David, Hearne, writer.com to find out more.
Are you keeping up with the Commodore? Yes, the Commodore is keeping up with you.
Hello, welcome back. So that was your first lot of games. Now let's look at what was going on in music in November 1986. Have we spoken about this one before? We did, didn't it? Came out and we talked about this. So number one for the first 4 weeks of November was "You Take My Breath Away." Do do do. Do, do, do. The love theme from Top Gun, Take My Breath Away, by Berlin.
Yeah, because if you remember, we said last time that it was written by Giorgio Moroder.
Oh, yeah, not Hugh Padgham.
No.
Everything seems to be by Hugh Padgham.
It's either Giorgio Moroder or Hugh Padgham. I didn't realise, but Berlin were actually formed in Los Angeles in 1978. For some reason, I thought they were a European thing.
Well, the name would lead you to that summation, I would imagine. I wonder if they, what if they were called Merlin?
And they changed it. They got it wrong and they printed it. Damn it!
Why'd we call Merlin? Look, I've got the beard and hat and everything.
People are going to think we're from Europe now, and we're clearly not.
No, neither are we from Cornwall. Let's do a Tintagel.
But yeah, they're interesting. The only other interesting thing I could find about Berlin was that they did a track called "Oh Antonio," which was a remix track of something by another European act called Annie, and it's actually a really good track. If you can hunt it down, it's on a soundtrack to another film, The Guest. It's on the soundtrack to The Guest. So if you
the recent one, the
Wingard, was it Adam Wingard?
Adam Wingard, yeah, the one with him out of Downton Abbey in.
Yes,
what's his name?
Yes,
yeah, that's a good film.
It is very good, and that Berlin track is on the soundtrack, and the soundtrack is excellent, by the way. So go and check that out when you get to.
Yeah, he does do good soundtracks with something. It was a good soundtrack to Your Next as well.
Yes, it is.
That was good. Okay, but rounding out the week, we spoke about this as well. It came in at number 100 in our last episode, I think, or our last month, and then climbed all the way to the top, boosted by epic hair and mad guitar solos and the craziness that was The Final Countdown. It is a really crazy song.
It is. Now, here's the thing, right? The Final Countdown, the guitarist in the band at that time hated Final Countdown because and I never really realised before, if you listen to it, the guitar is really low in the mix and the synths and everything were a lot higher in that mix. And that annoyed him that much he left the band in 1987.
God, what a fool.
Yeah, couldn't think of all the royalties he could have had.
Well, he might have still got him because he's still probably on the writing credits, I guess. But
yeah, just mad.
Yeah, it is. But that's a crazy guitar solo in that song.
Yes, it goes doodly diddly, doesn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, it's a real whittler.
It is.
But so that was it. That's your number one singles, Take My Breath Away and The Final Countdown. What are our number one albums? Well, we had Every Breath You Take, the singles from The Police for the first couple of weeks.
Yeah, big compilation of theirs, wasn't it?
It was, yeah. I mean, it's going to be, I would imagine it's an amazing album.
Yeah.
Because there's probably enough amazing Police songs to fill a compilation, let's face it.
There's Message in a Bottle, Can't Stand Losing You, Roxanne.
Da.
Yeah, all of those.
Every Breath You Take.
Yeah, it's just genuinely, the Police are a really good band and exceptional musicians as well. So it's probably I might track that down actually because I'll just ask Siri these days. You don't need to go and track things down. You've got an assistant that does all that for me. Siri, don't actually do it now.
No, don't say it now. She will do it.
Oh God, it's actually gone and done it. Mad. Anyway, yeah. So save that for later.
What's that, Graham? You want me to call the police? Calling them now. No, is something wrong? Are you being forced? Are you being coerced, Graham? Say your safe word now. I don't have a safe word. Calling the police.
It'd be weird if it actually rang Sting though and not the actual police. Sting's like, "Who are you? And why are you ringing my number? You stupid weirdo! Get off the phone."
Are you really a good digger,
Stuart?
That's what I'd ask him.
Stop messing about, Stuart.
In The Simpsons, he's a good digger, isn't he?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, forgot about that.
Marge, he's a really good digger. We're sending the boy down the well. All the way down.
So he rips his shirt off and just starts digging, doesn't he?
Yeah, he's not in there.
He's a lot better in that than he is in the Dune film. Not the new one, of course, but the original one.
Yes, he is. He wasn't an actor, was he, Sting?
No, he was not.
Yeah, he was in Thingies, but was he in Quadrophenia as well?
Yes, he's actually good in that, though. He doesn't say much.
That's probably why he's good, then.
They don't give him a lot of lines in Dune. But then again, it's a bit of a mysterious film anyway, isn't it? But no, I do like The Police, so I think I'll track that down.
Yeah, I will do. What else? Yeah, okay, so for the middle 2 weeks, because there was five Mondays in this November. So in the middle 2 weeks, we had Hits 5 by various artists. So we had the start of the Christmas rush, I'm guessing.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's the beginning of the Christmas sort of zone, isn't it?
It really is. I mean, it's quite a
decent. And also as well, if looking at the wiki, don't buy the CD of this because it's way short. There's only 16 tracks on the CD.
Why? I wonder.
But there is 30. Why? Because that's all they could fit on.
Yeah.
But the album's a double album with 32 tracks on.
Well, that's the way to buy it then. I would have been.
It is, yeah. Not that you've got 32 better songs, 16 greater songs. You've probably got 16 good songs and then 16 filling up the other space. But you do have stuff like Aha, Been Losing You, Paul Young's Wonderland, okay. Bruce Hornsby in the Range, Nick Kamen, Paul Simon, You Can Call Me Al, Thorn in My Side, Eurythmics.
There's some good ones in there. There's some good ones in there.
But then people weren't happy with that because by the time we got to the end of November, they were all buying Now That's What I Call Music 8.
Which features exactly the same songs in a different order.
Probably.
Do you know?
More than likely.
I was thinking about something that reminds me of. These albums, the way they come out in the 80s, these hits and Now That's Spoken Music. And do you know, if you've ever been on holiday and you go down sort of I say the seafront, but you go down and there's all those sort of tacky sort of shops that sell just cheap and nasty rubbish, the sort of thing, tea towels, fridge magnets. There's hundreds of them. If you go to Greece or Spain or anywhere on holiday, there's loads of shops that sell all that kind of tat, fans, snow globes, all that kind of thing. And then if you walk down the street, there's another shop that sells exactly the same thing, but just in a different order on the shelves. This is the exact same logic that was applied to these albums. I even call those shops everything that guy down there sells, but with 3 shops down to the left. Because that's exactly what those shops are. And these remind me of that. So Hits 5 has probably got more or less similar, probably some of the same tracks, but not all. But there'll be a few, again, I just thought it was a weird anomaly. And they are very popular.
Mm-hmm.
And I've even bought some myself in my time. So
everybody has.
Yeah, I think everybody's got one somewhere, haven't they?
Everybody who is of that era, who was available, ability to buy some album, probably bought a Now or a Hits or had
especially
one
for someone, it was like a good
something.
Christmas present, wasn't it? It's like if you aren't sure what to get your sister or your brother, it's probably a safe bet they're going to like one of those 32 tracks off there. There you go, got that album you wanted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, what? The new Sisters of Mercy album.
Do you know, I remember getting, whenever I bought anyone one of those albums for Christmas, then I used to go into Woolworths to buy them always. Going to Woolworths, buy Now That's What I Call Music 8, nip across, buy 5-pack of TDK C90s, because I knew for a while I've been taping that damn thing, so...
Oh, TDK C90s.
Yeah, but I did, if you were feeling a bit posh that day, you'd maybe get the metal ones or the chromium ones or whatever.
Oh, check you out. Tell you were from the Wybers.
Yep. Always with the metal. So I could press the mysterious button on the front of the recording system we had that said metal. I'm thinking, what does it do? Does it make a difference? It must.
Yeah, it just makes them sound like Magnum. Anything you put in it just gets the Magnum touch.
I just like the idea of any hi-fi equipment having a metal button. It's like, wow, just make it metal.
At the start of every song, it goes dun 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 dun. The Magnum touch. Hits and now. They were other number ones along with the Police best of. So people are buying compilations. Yes, it's the Christmas silly season.
They are indeed.
So what did we get in singles? New releases of note in the singles period. We've got at number 40 on the 2nd of November, Experiment 4 by Kate Bush. Yes, I put here, it was released to launch her best of album, The Whole Story.
Yeah,
which also came out during this period. I have no recollection of this song
because it's totally forgettable in every way.
Is it?
Yeah.
Nigel Kennedy on violin.
Yeah, exactly. Famous violin virtuoso. But it wouldn't matter on Experiment 4 because I don't think you should call a song Experiment anything because it just makes you think it's not finished, which it clearly isn't.
Which it probably wasn't.
No.
But Nigel Kennedy was big for a small period of time. It's like
rightfully so. The guy's a genius.
Oh, don't get me wrong. He's a very good violinist. I'm not, but he wasn't really sort of popular for his He was like a punk violinist, wasn't he?
Yeah.
He was this sort of punk West Ham supporting violinist who did Vivaldi's The Four Seasons.
Yes, he did that.
And literally, that was all anyone knew of him, and that's all I've ever known from him, and that's it. And then he disappeared. It's like America's love affair with Australia, which they thought was going to continue.
Yeah.
And so Nigel Kennedy's kind of appeared sort of for a while and was kind of on everything going, oh, I'm Nigel Kennedy, and then disappeared.
Good impersonation, that. Tell you.
Well, he was more of a Cockney, wasn't he? Hey, I'm Nigel Kennedy.
If you do actually wonder what happened to Nigel Kennedy, he retired to live in a giant violin just off the coast of Costa Rica, but he got trapped by the strings, and so he's still in there now, just trying to pluck his way out. Pluck up the courage.
Did he move to Isla Nublar and a giant violiniraptor?
Yes, he
attacked him.
yes. Welcome to Violin Park.
No, 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 no.
Played on violin.
Yeah. No, 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 no. It's a giant jello. They've actually made it. God, just orchestral animals walking around. That would be amazing.
Yes, so that's what happened to him.
It became a recluse and worked with frog DNA to create frog orchestral instrument hybrids.
That's horrific beyond it. That just sound like a weird sort of version of the film Alien. That's what he did.
Right,
David went off up there.
Michael Crichton has already written it. It's okay. He's already written that book.
Well, he's got the frog violins in his house.
No. Number 46. Yeah, Bleakend, indeed. It's When the Wind Blows by David Bowie. Indeed, this is based... I thought this was the theme tune or the main track from the film.
It is.
When the Wind Blows, which is quite frankly, as you've noted, Bleakend's one of the most depressing pieces of animation, never to come out of Russia.
Yep.
What's When the Wind Blows, Graham? Tell us what When the Wind Blows is. You tell us, because you could probably...
It's
better than I can.
It's an elderly English couple animation made by, I think it's the same guy that made
Snowman, isn't it?
The Snowman, yeah. So it's the same guy. I can't remember his name. It'll come back to me in a minute. But yeah, same animator. And it's about an elderly couple trying to survive a nuclear war, the fallout after a nuclear attack, and the subsequent nuclear winter, and basically slowly over a period of 75 to 80 minutes dying of various cancers and tumours and things. All set to the happy soundtrack of Roger Waters. So get your razor blades out there. And then Dave Bowie did the lead song. So, order yourself a noose as well while you're at it.
Yeah. I just remember them because it's also it's voiced by, it's John Mills and Thora Hird, I think, in it.
Something like that, yeah. I think it's quite a famous thing.
So it's these beloved British actors who are suddenly sort of voicing these old people that you're just watching fall to pieces with blotches, and they believe that if they put their doors up against the wall and crouch under them with some blankets around them, that it'll keep out the radiation. I seem to remember that in it, and they're more and more just trying to carry on by making cups of tea and stuff.
That's right. Yes. Oh dear, my teeth have fallen into my
exactly.
tea. Don't worry, love. It's John Mills and Peggy Ashcroft with the
Peggy Ashcroft. Sorry,
and
not Thora Hird.
Based on the Raymond Briggs book.
Yeah, and it is genuinely one of the most depressing things I've ever watched in my life, and I've been on safari.
Apparently, Raymond Briggs based the two characters out of his own parents. I think he was trying to tell them something.
Jesus Christ, that makes it worse.
Chirpy. Very chirpy.
Yeah.
The soundtrack also features for that, by the way, Roger Waters' Genesis Squeeze, Paul Hardcastle. God knows where he features on it. I remember watching it when it was on TV, when it was finally on, and it totally bleaked me out. I know. Yeah. That's why I say it's one of those films that if you want a good old bleak end, get that, break out that. There's a couple of others. Watch a Threads rerun or something, and you're just gonna sort of cry yourself into your cup of tea at night, going, "The end of the world's awful."
Yeah. Top it off with the French version of Martyrs.
Yeah, and then watch Up. Just if you want to watch a film.
Yeah, turn it off after 10 minutes.
Yeah, just watch the first 10 minutes of Up, and then watch Where the Wind Blows, and then Martyrs. Top it off with Martyrs. Couple of others maybe, just for those bleak end chills. Yeah.
Jesus.
That is proper bleak end, isn't it?
Happy times. Happy times.
Have a laugh with Raymond Briggs. God, imagine inviting him around for Christmas. Should we read The Snowman? No, let's read this one to his mum and dad. I'll read you this one I've written about you. This is where you both die horribly from radiation poisoning. Oh, don't think I want to hear that today, Raymond. Could you open your other presents?
Read us one of your happy stories about the snowman who melts.
Look, I've got you a computer game, Raymond. It's Wing Commander. You like that?
Careful on those stairs down.
That's why he wrote him into that book, slowly dying of tumours and awfulness.
Every affliction that is a Sunday best game that he received.
Exactly.
Just letting it out.
Well, you've got to tell me, he's went from a nice childhood book like The Snowman to murdering his parents from a nuclear attack in When the Wind Blows. Something happened in between.
he had serious Al Jorgensen.
Something happened in between, and it could easily have been a few too many Sunday best games.
So be careful out there.
Be careful
all
out
I can
there.
say.
Yes.
Number 52, we have Two People.
That's
by,
not one I'd heard of that
No,
Tina Turner. That,
but it's got the multiple syllables. Two People.
of course, yeah.
So it's Tina Turner doing Two People. No, that sounds horrible.
She might have, but we don't know for sure.
No. Anyway, number 53 is Rock the Nations
Oh dear.
by Saxon. I love including the Saxon releases because they're so shit.
The 8th studio album, and actually probably the equivalent of the number of bassists they went through, because they went through a lot of bassists in Saxon. I think every album's got a different bassist on.
Well, I don't know what to say about Saxon.
Not a lot you can say. I think they're still going. You can go and see them now at Brighton Pier, I think.
Hey, I'm off. 9th of November, Ghost Dancing by everyone's favourite German cough suite, Smippelmans.
Totally forgettable Ghost Dancing.
Yeah. Did you remember this one?
No, never, because I only ever remember one or two Simple Minds songs.
Yeah, absolutely. Number 56, Great New Order track, Bizarre Love Triangle.
This is a good track, that one, actually.
It's a very, very good song, that is. And I really do like that song. So that was in at number 56. Number 65, I'm Not Perfect, But I'm Perfect for You. By Grace Jones.
Grace Jones.
Now, you've noticed something, Danny, but I wanted to actually just recall something that we didn't actually bring up at the time, which was when we talked about View to a Kill. Okay, Grace Jones is obviously in that.
Mayday.
As Mayday, yes. And there's a scene in that where she has to seduce James Bond, isn't there?
There is.
And in that scene, if I'm remembering correctly, there's a sort of almost a sort of pastiche bit where James Bond lures her into the bed, and then when he starts kissing her, looks over his shoulder, doesn't he? As if going, "Oh, the things I do for England."
That's right. Yeah.
And it's awful because you're dust.
Yeah, I feel sorry for Grace Jones at that point.
Grace Jones is a beautiful, beautiful woman.
Yeah, striking.
Incredibly striking. I think she was a model and stuff, wasn't she?
Oh, totally. Yeah.
And here she is having to get into bed with essentially this man held together by powder and a brown jacket. And he's rolling his eyes, and we're supposed to empathise with him.
Don't.
The notion that, this sort of, I found it really weird. And it just occurred to me when I sort of scored Grace Jones, and we didn't sort of bring that up at the time. And I thought, I'm just got to rectify the record on that, because that's an awful, awful thing in that film.
She suffered
it just makes me
for
hate
us all
it even
there.
more.
She took one for the team on that one, that's for sure. I mean, goodness me. She must have got out of that scene and just be covered in like a duster. What is this? It's like a fine powder. It's like she'd been talked. Like, why? What is this? And it's like that moment in that 2005 version of War of the Worlds when they're all getting zapped and just covered in dust. That's exactly how it happens for him.
It would have been. She would have had like a sort of dust marks around her lips.
Exactly. And as he was touching her, she'd have been like, "Oh God, if you've got a heartbeat because your hands are as cold as ice."
And I'm not willing to sacrifice. So I wanted to bring that up, just for my own personal, God, that's horrible. That
is horrible.
Horrible. It's horrible.
Bloody hell.
So from our album Inside Story, produced by Nile Rodgers.
Of course. And he's the other one that produces albums around this time, by the way.
Yeah, he does, yeah. And obviously Andy Warhol was bored again, so he made an appearance.
Yes, one of his last appearances, as he died a few months after that.
Well, he would do.
He did, yeah. He got trapped in a tin
Are you sure
of
on
soup.
this? Am I allowed to say he's dead?
No, he's definitely dead, and he died not long after that.
Dead,
but he didn't drown in a tin of soup.
That would have been the ultimate irony. 4 soups.
She did actually direct that video for that song herself. She's actually famous for doing a lot of stuff herself. This album, the second album, isn't as good as the first album. A lot of her early tracks were produced by Trevor Horn, of course, so that's why Slave to the Rhythm and stuff is such a good track.
Yeah.
But this album is actually, I quite like Grace Jones. I've got a lot of time for that kind of sophisto stuff she come out with, and she did have a lot of input into the creative direction of the stuff she was involved with. So hats off to you, Grace. I mean, I'm sorry that you were menaced by a pensioner on our behalf, but
yeah.
Well done, Grace. Well done.
Well done. Yes, there it is. There it is.
Things I do for this country.
Oh, it's horrible. It's horrible. Dust.
Just the idea, he must have got a bit too excited in there, and he would have had a little fun-sized Mars bar going on money down there, and she'd have been like, "Hey, get off me, Roger! I'm out of this scene. If that thing comes near me, then let it go off."
It would be like a Hoover bag.
Like a Henry Hoover, just a really low powered one. Like, yeah, and then it just go.
Ew.
I'm sorry, Grace. I appear to have come in my trousers.
I'm sorry, I appear to have dusted you.
It's like a crop dusting. Don't worry. It'll wash off in 2 weeks.
And will barely leave a stain.
My penis has been shaken, not stirred. Anyway, move on swiftly on. That took a dark turn.
Well, poor old Henry Hoover. We've got a Henry Hoover. I'm never going to look at it the same again.
Same. We've got one as well.
I'm not handling that bag.
No.
16th of November. Number 24 was Warriors of the Wasteland by Frankie Goes to Hollywood.
Horrible song.
Yeah, it's rubbish, isn't it?
Awful.
Number 28, a much better song, though, was Land of Confusion by Genesis.
Yeah, it's a bit of a classic for them, isn't it?
Possibly my favourite Genesis song,
It's got a very catchy chorus for Land of Confusion.
Yeah, it has. It's got a really great riff as well throughout it.
Yeah.
It's a good heavy track.
Hugh
And it's a really
Padgham.
good... Hugh Padgham? I'll call him.
Hugh Padgham's involved.
I'll call him.
That guy gates anything he comes near. It's like, you go to your house and you just find his gates all over your house. Like, what have you been doing? I've gated your house. I gate everything.
But there's a really good, if you want a cover of this, there's a really good cover of this by Disturbed.
Okay.
Which is a lot heavier, obviously, because it's by Disturbed, you know, Down with the Sickness. But they did a really, really good cover of this, which is worth your time listening to.
Do you know, I liked Disturbed and I liked Down with the Sickness until I heard the Weird Al Yankovic version of Polka, that song. And it's ruined it forever for me.
Well, Weird Al Yankovic will ruin most songs.
I was like, oh, ruined that. He ruined that and a number of others with these stupid polkas.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, that was it's a good cover of that. So, and also that's the one with the spitting image video, isn't it?
It is, yes, it is, yeah. Very good.
So we like that. Number 49 was Because of You by Dex's Midnight Runners. And as I have noted here, why were these still around at this point? What's going on?
It's a good question.
It is a good question. I like your answer. It's past midnight and they were not running.
But they got Come on Eileen. That's just all kinds of nasty.
I didn't want to say that bit.
It's the legitimate title of their song. Or was it something they did and they made up a song about it? We don't know. We don't want to know. The lyrics for that are very disturbing, actually. I'm not going to go into it now, but they really are. So check them out. Check them out at your own peril. I never liked Dexy's Midnight Runners. I still don't.
I don't. They were like proto-levelers.
Apparently Dexy was kind of they are a bit proto-levelers. Dexy himself, the guy, whatever his real name was, not Dexy, I imagine. Maybe his name's Dexy Midnight.
No. His first name was Sexy.
Oh, right. Well,
Dexy.
Mr. Midnight Dexy, whatever the hell his name was. Apparently he's a bit of a control freak with the band. He was like totally in control of the look and the sort of marketing and everything of that band.
Oh, could you imagine being in that band and he went, right, so we're all wearing...
He did.
We're all wearing those stupid dungarees.
That's exactly what he did do.
Oh, man, I'd be leaving that band faster than anything.
Yeah, he basically shaped
them. Than dust out of Roger Moore, I'd be out that band.
If you look at some of the early Dexys Midnight Runners stuff that came out, and then you look at Come on Eileen and Jockey Wilson's Dead, wasn't it? The famous Top of the Pops cock-up. But if you look at them, look at those where they've got the dungarees and the foot stomp dance that they perfected actually before Erasure took over it, and then Frankie Goes to Hollywood kind of added a sheen to it. But the single foot stomp dance that they all do, that look was completely contrived and totally and utterly for kind of that Top of the Pops appearance, that video that they did famously, and I just, all chanty hairy armpits, wasn't it, at the time? Come on Eileen, all that. Never really a fan.
No, I wasn't. A novelty song as far as I was concerned.
Yeah.
Number 76 was Hip to Be Square by Huey Lewis and the News.
Huey Lewis and the News. No, I was in a band briefly where we tried to cover this, and we had a singer try out for the band who couldn't sing it properly. He just kind of sang it in that kind of pub voice. So it was hit to he, yeah. He couldn't for some reason. It was like, if you imagine mixing a pub singer with a guy that sings for Metallica, it was like that. It was really weird. He just went, it's hit to me, yeah. We're like, oh, right, okay, that's enough of you then. Nice guy, just didn't have the right sound.
Did you do the speech on Miami Dice?
It was me. No, forgettable Huey Lewis stuff. Forgettable, really interesting, but
it is. I don't mind Hip to Be Square. It's okay.
It's all right.
It's all right. It's just bland pop in it, bland American
pop, and that's where it lives in that Americo pop for me a little bit. There was a few stuff like that came around that was not quite my thing.
Mm-hmm. 23rd November, number 26, So Cold the Night by the Communards. No idea. Can't remember that at all.
Wasn't one that crossed my radar.
No, neither did this one as well, The Miracle of Love by the Eurythmics.
No, I could not place that. When I listened back to it, I was like, oh, right. Oh, okay, they released that. But it completely missed me. I don't know whether I was asleep for a long period of time? Was I hibernating at this particular period of that year? I don't know what happened.
Well, they had a best of out this month as well, so I believe it's probably like Experiment 4.
Yeah.
It's a track they've done for the best of.
Yeah, totally, not Lee.
Number 46, Is This Love by Alison Moyet.
Is this love? Do 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 do. Yeah, that one.
Yeah, that
I
one. That's
actually
what
really
I was
Alison
hoping
Moyet,
it was.
so.
Yeah.
First album is exceptionally good.
I can give or take. I don't never.
Oh, I really like Alison Moyet stuff. I like her voice particularly. Not so much how it is now, but her voice then. I think it's really good. It's just got such a nice tonality to it.
Yes. But I never found her particularly interesting. I should say.
But this, I think, when she was before she was Alison Moyet, of course, it was Yazoo, and in Yazoo she had Vince Clarke,
not Vince Neil,
Vince Clarke, and of course. So that album they produced together as Yazoo is exceptional. I can't remember what it's called now. It's just literally slipped out of my mind as I said that. This one was produced by Dave Stewart under a pseudonym of Jean Guillot. I don't know why he's doing that under a pseudonym. Why not just do it under Dave Stewart? I'm guessing contractual weirdness, which is probably the third album that never got released. But there you go. Rain Dancing was the second album from Ms. Moyet.
Well, anyway, number 98. Is this when it was first released? Real Wild Child, Wild One by Iggy Pop. Is this the first release of this? I thought this was much older.
For some reason, I thought this was way older.
But
I only ever remember it from the Home Alone movies. I think it's in one of those. I think somewhere.
It's a track that's been in loads. It's been in loads of stuff, hasn't it?
Yeah,
Real Wild Child, I'm a wild one. But I just had a feeling that this was older than 1986.
Well,
I don't know
Iggy
why.
Pop
but
in general,
maybe it wasn't.
though. Whenever you look at Iggy Pop, you always think he's older than he is. He's actually not. Yeah, I do.
Yeah, he's following the Roger Moore trajectory, isn't he?
He's had such a, think of all the jobs he's had. He's been the Traveller. He's been chairman of the board. He was a real wild child. He's been around, that guy. Been around.
He really has. But at this point, yes, he was a real wild child, and I just thought it was oldest anyway. But that was number 98, so that would probably go higher. Or maybe it wouldn't, and just sort of gain a sort of credence as it got used in stuff.
And thank God we never released our Man Outside song when we did, because we might have been hit by a copyright infringement suit for ripping off the Traveller blatantly.
I don't know what you're talking about. Those chords were very different. They had the A, we had the big A.
We did play it in a slightly different rhythmic sequence, I think it's fair to say.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
No.
Nothing wrong with that. 30th of November, at number 23 was The Caravan of Love by the House Martins.
So that actually it becomes a controversial song in December. So I suspect we'll probably end up talking about that more in the preceding episodes of the podcast, but just to put a little trailer in there, it gets held off the Christmas number one by a very interesting song, famously. In fact, actually, some people argue that it was deliberately held off the number one slot for reasons of religious significance, but we'll talk about that later down the line.
We shall, yes, because at number 28 was Cry Wolf by Aha.
Another good Aha track. They were always a solid band. They just kind of, I think they peaked really early, didn't they? And then, not that they peaked in terms of how good the music was, because they've always been pretty good musically. They pop peaked, and then they didn't really want to be a pop band anyway. And so I think everything after that is kind of, it feels like a bit like an afterthought. But if you think that Aha are just Take On Me and such, then, you really haven't heard the best of Aha, in my opinion.
No, you have not. You should go listen to that. Cry Wolf is a good track. Cry Wolf, hoo, that one. Number 71 was Santa Claus is on the Dole, and the first Atheist Tabernacle Choir by Spitting Image.
Yeah, so it's just another Spitting Image hate fest.
Yeah, so this is just, and obviously their Christmas song. Because this is what's going on now, people releasing stuff for Christmas. Number 81 was The Boy in the Bubble by Paul Simon.
It's off the album, isn't it, I think?
And it's one of the tracks that I really remember. The Boy in the Bubble is There's that in it. So that's quite a good track, actually. I quite like that.
It is.
That's your singles. So what we got in the albums. 2nd of November, straight in at number 1. We've already mentioned this, Every Breath You Take, the singles by Police.
We have mentioned
it. In at number 3 was Now Dance 86.
I don't imagine there being a lot of good dance tracks around in 86, so I'm guessing it's at the end of the synth wave, beginning of the cusp of perhaps some drummy dance stuff, but I
don't know.
I didn't think it really came about dance as such with house and stuff till really about 87, 88, but maybe I'm wrong.
No, I have no idea what's on it, but yeah, because dance music as we kind of know it didn't really
house music didn't hit the charts in the UK till 87, 88, not really.
No. Well, if you want to know what was on Now Dance in 86, let's have a look. There's
Ballroom
20 smash dance hits of the year. We have Chain Reaction by Diana Ross.
Okay.
We Don't Have to Take Our Clothes Off by Jermaine Stewart. Don't Leave Me This Way by Communards. Can't Wait Another Minute, 5-star. Midas Touch, Midnight Star. Ain't Nothing Going On But the Rent, Gwen Guthrie. Love Can't Turn Around, Farley Jackmaster Funk. Rumours, Timex Social Club. All in All, Joyce Sims. Mine All Mine by Cashflow. Who's Zooming Who by Aretha Franklin.
Right.
Heaven Must Be Missing an Angel by Tavares. Don't Waste My Time by Paul Hardcastle.
A good track.
Breaking Away, Jackie Graham. Pull Up the Bumper by Grace Jones. So Macho by Sunita. Hit the Perfect Beat, Bronte Beat. Holiday Rap, MC Micah G and DJ Sven.
Classic.
I Can Prove It, Phil Fearon, and I Want to Wake Up With You by Boris Gardner.
Yeah.
The very antithesis of a dance track.
Yeah, I'm not sure what kind of dance. I think their interpretation
I think dance had a different meaning back then.
It meant variations of the form of dance as opposed to a dance techno track.
What dance
Interesting.
became.
Yeah. Weird. I didn't.
There you go. So that was what was considered dance back then in 1986. I'm glad I never bought that, and I'm amazed that went in at number 3. I think it was just it was a new Now album, so people bought it and then realised what the hell have I bought.
ChristmasPresents.com.
Yeah, because number 35 was the greatest hits of 1986 from various artists.
ChristmasPresents.com.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, this was also another Christmas present. At number 53 was Inside the Electric Circus from Wasp.
Bloody Wasp.
Yeah. Was this the first? Oh, hang on a minute. The first album. This album's the band's first to feature Blackie Lawless. Was he not in?
No. It's the first album to feature Blackie Lawless playing guitar. He played bass. So before that, he always played bass, and then for this album, and then forever after, he played guitar, which was a surprise to everyone, including Blackie Lawless, because I don't think he even knew how to play it, but clearly he does.
Well, maybe.
And he's a really big guy as well. He's a really strange, big personality. Odd band, Wasp. Really odd.
Yeah, they were unpleasant. I didn't like them.
No, it wasn't my cup of tea.
9th of November, we have Leather Jackets from Elton John.
Totally forgettable Elton John album.
Well, he just releases an album every week, doesn't he?
Yeah.
He's got more songs than anybody.
He found that one under his sofa. He's like, I didn't even know I'd made that. Better release that one.
It's just an album about jacket.
But it is as well.
Every song is about a different coat he owns. All the leather ones.
He wrote a song about Grimsby, and it's actually the lyrics are nothing to do with Grimsby whatsoever, and includes mentioning pubs that never existed in Grimsby. The man's a confused wreck, and these albums are a reflection of that. And he's an album about leather jackets. The first track will be called, I Don't Wear Pleather. It's all leather in brackets.
Look at my tassels. Is the second track.
Yeah.
Biker Jacket A Go-Go is the third one.
Jacket potatoes in brackets aren't made of leather.
Oh dear. Anyway, Elton John, Leather Jackets. He also wrote a song about Market Raisin.
Did he?
Yeah, Saturday Night's All Right for Fighting.
Is that about Market Raisin, is it?
It's about Market Raisin. As far as I'm aware, it is, yes.
Well, he's got a song called Leather Jackets in brackets are banned in Market Raisin, so that must be...
That's the 5th track on that album. Never wear a leather jacket in Middle Raisin. That's the other one.
Actually, that's just good advice. Don't do that.
That's true, actually.
Don't like it.
No, they'll have that off your back quicker than Roger Moore can shed dust. Number 58, Electric Cafe by Craftwork.
Yes.
Their 9th studio album.
Number 9.
Absolutely. Well, it was all one album. They just split it up over a series of years.
It took 5 years to make Electric Cafe. It was 5 years in production because of various things, including I think at least 2 of the members having bicycle accidents. So it's true.
The most dangerous kind of accident.
I know.
Did they go into cars or was it just with other bicycles?
I don't know. I think they just had cycle accidents.
Or were they walking and got hit by a bicycle?
Well, they were just cycling non-stop, and that's what happens when you do that. So this is actually it's a particularly...
We are the cyclists.
It's a good Craftwork album. It's not a great Craftwork album. I always preferred their
Were they cycling
stuff.
on the Autobahn? That would explain why they had a bad accident.
See, there's the camp of Craftwork fans that like the Autobahn stuff. They actually re-released Electric Cafe with a different title in 2007. I can't remember why, but Electric Cafe is the boing pum bing, ping bum chat. And it's where the sampler and stuff gets heavily involved. And some people are, your Craftwork purists, much prefer the Computer World stuff from Craftwork as more than the Electric Cafe stuff. I have actually got a little bit of time for both as a person that really enjoys experimental electronic music, as a pastime as well. I find that it's quite an interesting album, all said and done. It's just, the big complaint of the people in Craftwork was they felt it was actually, even after 5 years, was a bit crap. So they didn't really want to make a big deal of it, but it turned out to be quite an important album. And of course, the video
famously featured sort of computer animated heads, at this particular time, that early CG and stuff's all very interesting. But you either like someone repeating the words, music non-stop for 10 minutes a lot, or you don't. Turns out some people don't.
No, not for me. And at number 73 was Scratch and Sniff by Smith and Jones.
Okay.
What the hell? So is it a comedy album? Is that what it was? I don't know, because Smith and Jones were massive at this point, weren't they? On the back of Not the 9 O'Clock News.
Must have been.
They were very, very big, and you had, I don't know if Colin was in Colin Sandwich at this point. Mel Smith was in that, and obviously it popped up in the tall guy. He was in that. He
Something
directed
like that. Yeah.
So there was a lot of love for Smith and Jones at this point. But I can't. No, please tell me this isn't a singing album.
I genuinely don't know.
Because they did some songs, didn't they? Because they did the classic stuff on Not the 9 O'Clock News, like I Like Trucking.
I Like Trucking, and
which I absolutely adore that song.
I like trucking and I like to truck.
Like to truck, yes, absolutely brilliant. If you don't like trucking, tough luck. So I've got, but I don't know whether this is a comedy album or it's called Scratch and Sniff. So I don't know.
I think it's possibly a live comedy album. I think
maybe because they also did the unfortunate. What was the film they made? Morons from Outer Space.
Not great.
That wasn't very good, was it?
No, it wasn't.
16th of November. Straight in at number 1 was the Hits 5. We've spoken about that. Various artists. Straight in at number 3 was The Whole Story by Kate Bush.
One of the best of.
Yeah, it would be a brilliant best of. I imagine there's like Police's. There's enough great tracks there to fill the best of.
Absolutely.
Behind that, at number 4, coming up straight behind that, live 1975 to 1985. That's a long gig. Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band.
Goodness, that is 10-year gig.
10 years. The gig. This gig cannot be stopped. Jesus, stop, Bruce. How many songs you got? All of them.
That's
number
actually
14.
the number of songs that are on the recording is 1,975 in the first half.
And then it's 10 more. Can only find 10 more. Number 14, the Tiny Hat Brigade return with God's Own Medicine by The Mission.
There was a single
their first
last
album.
time, so we knew that was something.
There was.
Coming.
They've had about 3 singles out at this point before they released this. Good album, Matt. Really good album.
Yeah.
Good opener. Very jangly goth.
It's jingly, that one.
Very much so. Number 15, on the back of the single, we have number 50, The Final Countdown from Europe.
Yeah.
As the single was called, so is the album.
Good album.
Number 54. Now, I put this in because I wasn't going to mention this, but I'm just thinking, haven't we just spoken about these? Brighter Than a Thousand Suns by Killing Joke.
They had a single out.
I'm sure we've just mentioned that they had another album out the other week.
It was a single they had out, and it was off this album. So.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, there we go. No, I'm sure we mentioned an album because we were talking about their albums.
Yeah, it wasn't. It was this album that the single. We knew this was coming out. We mentioned it in that context.
All right, okay. Well, anyway, that's come out in at number 54. At number 86, we had Sue by Sue Pollard.
And I was thinking it was an album about the Students' Union.
No, it's Heidi High Campers.
I know Sue Pollard is. I was just trying to erase it.
This is that notion that, there's people just releasing albums. Like, what is going on?
Yes.
At what point did people all think that putting an album out by Sue Pollard was the right thing to do?
She was very popular, but not popular enough. Funny, I saw her on TV the other day. She was on one of those bake-off cookery shows. MasterChef, yeah.
MasterChef, yeah, I saw her as well.
She's no MasterChef.
Yeah, she got booted out, didn't she?
Yes, she did.
Yeah, she did. At number 90 was Classics by Candlelight.
Oh, more compilations. You can tell Christmas is coming. Bloody hell.
Christmas coming up. I would think though that playing Classics by Candlelight is quite hard.
Yes.
For the orchestra, and quite dangerous. Why don't they just turn the lights on?
Arguably quite dangerous, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on there. 23rd November, Through the Barricades by Spandau Ballet. Their fifth studio album.
They never stopped playing that Through the Barricades ever since it was the popular track off that album, and it's their 5th studio album. So not what you'd call a bona fide. I don't rate Spandau Ballet that much. The odd track, Gold and Silver and Bronze, and the follow-ups that never were as popular.
Brass,
other metals, yeah. Palladium was Palladium. When they went through that rock phase. But,
Iridium.
Imodium, that's the song that's...
Lead. Yeah, I'm in my bed. I'm covered in lead.
She's got lead. And it connects all the roof joists. Anyway, moving on.
Indeed. Number 14 was Infected by the. I just wanted to put that because I want to say I don't like bands with the same name, same word twice. Number 15 straight behind them was Disco by the Pet Shop Boys.
Remix album.
Remix album. Yeah.
Yep.
Number 31, I was going to put this in the singles, but you thought, well, no point, sort of thing. But she had French Kissing in the USA came out in November as well as the single. But the album Rock Bird by Debbie Harry, the second studio album, yes, it is. I don't mind French Kissing in the USA, but I was never a huge Debbie Harry single, solo fan. Loved Blondie. The band Blondie are amazing, but Debbie Harry's solo stuff just didn't really do anything for me.
No, same.
And ironically, I don't think it did anything for much people because the following week, obviously, I've not noted it down, but looking the following week, it was down to number 32, and I don't think it did much more.
I don't think she did another album after that. I could be wrong, but I don't think she did. Well, not till they reformed Blondie and did the one recently, which was. Let's not even think about that.
Best not to. Number 57 was Just Good Friends.
That's
Paul
that
Nicholas.
TV show, isn't it?
It's the TV show, yeah, with Paul Nicholas and Jan. Jan someone or other.
Yeah.
Where it's essentially that it's the will they, won't they.
Yeah, it's a coffee advert stretched out beyond belief.
It was literally that coffee advert, the Nescafe coffee advert.
Yeah.
Like, gold blend? Oh, I thought you'd never ask.
Have you got any sugar? I have. I should never. That's why they never hired me to write for that show.
Can I borrow some? You can.
What is it with you and borrowing sugar?
Did you write Hellraiser 2? I did.
That's my get out of jail free card. You do the chinade, all bets are off. You can get out of any situation by just pull a chinade and then walk backwards out the room.
And just wander into the Cenobite making machine. See what'll come out the other end.
Well, you're going to come out as Chappie the Cenobite. I know I am. For God's sake.
There could be others. I don't know what.
Or the dog food variants or cat food.
Could be cat food or millet. Could be a head shaped like millet. Oh no, he's gone all budgie.
That's actually giving me more of a Wicker Man vibe. Imagine if the Wicker Man, when they drag him up that hill and he's shouting no, and when it presents you with the Wicker Man, it's just made of millet, like a giant birdseed tower being attacked by thousands and thousands of birds. It'd be terrifying, actually. It'd be way scarier than. Actually, would it be scary? I don't know. It's
absolutely
great film.
I don't know.
And it's much better than Just Good Friends, the TV show.
Absolutely, and probably better than that bloody album.
Imagine if Just Good Friends, the TV show, ended that way, where Paul Nicholas invited that woman in for a final drink and then took her into a room and trapped her in a wicker tower made of birdseed, and that was the end of the episode, just watching the tower in flames.
I just thought he'd just cover her in trill. Just pour loads of trill on her. What are you doing? Don't know. Trill.
Have this trill. Do you remember when, I won't mention his name, but do you remember when a certain drummer that was in our band was looking after his mum and dad's budgie and he fed it Paxo because he didn't have any trill, and it died. And when they came back from holiday, it was just dead in the bottom of its cage because it just died because it had expanded in it. So he killed his mum and dad's budgie with Paxo because he thought it was the same. I'm like, it's not the same. You can't give a budgie Paxo.
It's built to stuff birds.
Well, it did.
That's what Paxo is. You put it in birds.
He said, well, the bloody budgie went wild for it. I'm like, well, it would do. Wouldn't know the difference. But bloody hell, you murdered it with Paxo. It's a terrible thing. Terrible thing. And I tell you what, don't let Jeff Capes find out because he'd be, he could set his budgies on you, and they've got powers.
They've got the giant. Absolutely. They're a fight in the giant cellos at Nigel Kennedy's
He's trapped in
Violin Park.
Violin Park. Welcome to Violin Park. So a certain ex-drummer of ours is a budgie murderer. So there you go.
I never knew that. I would have kicked him out of the band. Well, did he leave anyway?
He left anyway, yeah. Strange enough, it wasn't the first time he'd killed a budgie with Paxo, as we discovered later.
Serial Paxo budgie killer.
Yeah, that was but the police brand.
The worst kind.
Yeah. The Paxo massacre.
The Grimsby Evening Telegraph. Bird stuff for stuff.
It'd just be Paxo madness, wouldn't it, on the front page of that?
Yeah. Oh dear.
You monster.
I love that budgie. And he loved his trill.
To the end.
Number 70 was the greatest hits from Bonnie Tyler.
Yeah, all two of them.
Your favourite.
All two of them.
That's what I was thinking. There'd be a good one on side one and a good one on side two.
Exactly. And the rest of it's just the silent S on that hits. So.
Put to the beginning.
Yeah. It's just audio recordings of Bonnie Tyler having a dump over 8 consecutive days. So it's the great
total eclipse of the pan.
Total eclipse of the arse. Yeah. Yes. 2 hits at least on that. I can't think of any others that would float anyone's boat.
Well, didn't you say she did one that was the same as the Bon Jovi track?
She did. Yeah. If I was a something and you were a something. I can't remember what it was called. Yeah, it was famously, it was the You Gave Love a Bad Name.
You Give Love a Bad Name, yeah. So she obviously had another track. 30th of November, so let's just wrap this up. Now That's What I Call Music number 8 is very artistic. It's rating at number 1. Notorious by Duran Duran in at number 16.
Another two-namer.
Yeah, indeed.
Named after a character in Barbarella, by the way, if you ever wondered.
And number 22 was August by Eric Clapton, the follow-up to July.
I was going to say, releases an album, but surely it should have been released in August.
Yeah, but he's known as Slow
gone
Abs,
wrong
isn't he?
there. I know, but it's just thinking
so it took too long to record it. It's like, can you hurry up, Eric? Eric, hurry up, we've got to get this out. You can't hurry, love. You just have to wait. And I know it won't come easy.
I know, it's just the very idea that he would release an album called August in November is just mathematically obscure and bizarre. Just if you're going to release a month name, do it in the month, surely. But there you go. What does it matter?
Some might say it's utter madness.
I'm sensing compilation.
Which is at number 29 by Madness.
But it's a best of.
I'm sure it's a Christmas best of, yes.
Yeah.
And on that utter madness note, that's the end of your music for 1986. It's the Christmas season, so it's all things compilations is the way of the world at this point. That and Smith & Jones for some reason. That's it. We'll be back shortly, where we will be looking at our last set of games for this month. So please stay with us.
Shout out to our sponsor, davidhearnwriter.com, where you'll find bargain books, ebooks, and audiobooks. Like Back in Time for a Donut. Tara planned to go back to stop her parents' meeting, therefore ensuring her sister, the evil Pandora, would never be born. However, she's overshot, and Pandora is already here as a child. Oops, now what? Dave's podcast pick his world games. He still plays the weightlifting and cliff diving events, getting in practice before the Olympics come to Brisbane in 2030. Now, if only lifting pint glasses was an event.
Are you keeping up with the Commodore? Yes, the Commodore is keeping up with you.
Hello, welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. We have got some more games for you. 5, in fact, I believe. So let's crack into these quickly with the first one and get Daring Dude up the Doiseau, where we go with Dan Dare. Graham, Dan Dare, were you daring Dan?
Yes.
Did you dare to be Dan? Tell us Dan Dare.
So, Dan Dare, full name, Colonel Daniel McGregor Dare, was really one of the first UK sci-fi comics strips of any real importance. So it's nice British sci-fi action hero created by Frank Hampson, who was also responsible for many of the stories. Dan Dare appeared in the Eagle comic, which was appeared as Dan Dare Pilots of the Future from 1950 to 1967, and he also reappeared later, I think between 1982 and 1994 in a reissue of Eagle. And basically in each of the episodes he's battling the Mekon, who is a leader of the Deadly Treens, an army of Treens, of sort of an evil green sort of alien enemy, who are always episodically trying to take over the Earth with various fiendish schemes, weapons, and plans, and Dan Dare exists to thwart them. So this game is a kind of, I suppose you could say that it's a late entry into this idea, but Dan Dare still had sort of a little bit of currency. I'll come back to the sort of a little bit of why that might become a problem for it. But so the long and the short of it was between 1982 and 1994, Eagle was reissued. Dan Dare made a bit of a comeback, and the Eagle comic from then, it was really popular. I used to get it in 1982. I loved it still, and I really am a huge fan of Dan Dare. So the C64 version of the game is based upon that character and the world of that character. And it's different to the other versions that appeared. So there are variations of this game on different platforms. I think it's different to the Amstrad and the Spectrum one in some key ways. So in the Commodore 64 version, the idea of the game is that you've got you start on the surface of the planet, and you've got to work your way through the various caverns and networks of ladders to rescue your friend Digby, who's your kind of sidekick, and a professor, and destroy the kind of supercomputers in this sort of that are existing there that are part of the Mekon's evil plan, using a giant laser, which you kind of use mirrored sort of floor things to angle a laser beam at them. And so you've got to it's a bit of a wander through flip screen world, picking things up, solving little mini puzzles, beating up various Treen guards that appear, all done in a nice graphic comic book kind of style. So the approach to the graphics was very much in a tradition of the comic book. He's a little bit squat of a character, and there's not a lot that goes on the screen. I think that's one of the drawbacks of this game, is that the graphics are quite nice and quite nicely rendered inside in terms of the game, and there is a nice comic book vibe to them, but there isn't a lot of characters and things in there. You've got this kind of weird little sidekick thing that follows you around. I can't remember the name of that thing now, which I think you can throw something and it goes and picks things up for you and does stuff. So the idea of this game is you to complete all this stuff in a fixed period of time, and that's one of the key frustration points, is it's not a lot of time. So the idea is you've got to destroy the Mekon and his evil plant in that time. I think it's about 25 minutes, I think, something like that. And then you've actually, in the context of the game, you've got to beat the Mekon, do all that stuff, and then actually get out as well, off to the planet's surface and escape before the 25 minutes is up. So if you can package all that up into a game, it's quite a nice looking graphically. The music's a little bit basic, but it's okay, and the sound effects are a little bit basic, but they're okay. I think a lot of this was given over to the style and the content that they wanted to capture from the Dan Dare thing, and I think some of it just about gets away with it in some ways. The fight moves and the way, and some of the character interactions are the weaker link of this game, so the fight doesn't really feel like fighting. It's sort of Dan Dare kind of stomping his foot and punching in the air. It's a bit weird. And so the fighting doesn't really feel like you're connecting and fighting in any way. Not like it does in later games of this kind of type, like Rocket Ranger and things like that, where you get some really good fight sequences. So it's an attempt at something quite different. Now, I really like Dan Dare, so I had an affinity. I bought this back in the day. I really like the Eagle comics and the incarnations, and I particularly like Dan Dare. Dan Dare made an appearance, believe it or not, in 2000 AD at a certain point as well. I think that's what led to the resurgence, actually, in the early 80s. So I wasn't disappointed with the cartoon look of the game. I kind of expected it, and it was a kind of a simple flip screen puzzle game, really. Combat with a bit of dull combat, and it's a bit quiet, and there's a bit not much going on in the in between bits. So there's a bit of walking and to and fro. And well, I've never been shy of expressing that I don't really like games where I'm wandering around doing a lot of that stuff. So this is on a revisit, kind of that kind of notion, which I think belies a little bit of the excitement that Dan Dare could bring to a game. So I think the reason perhaps for that is maybe Dan Dare had lost some of its currency and its audience at this point in 1986. I don't know that it had the same, the same sort of daring do kind of sort of British super dude kind of thing. I don't know that that hero angle was working really well, but it did stick to its guns. I'll give it its due. It stuck to its Dan Dare guns. It kind of had a nice Dan Dare feel and look and feel about it. It felt very comic booky in its own way. And so I suppose the question is, would that appeal? Well, I liked it originally, played it, completed it. On this revisit, I found myself thinking, actually, maybe I was a little bit into, if you're into Dan Dare, maybe I was more forgiving of it back then. I was less forgiving of it now. I found it a little bit dry and a bit empty, but it was still quite an interesting game, quite a good looking game, all said and done. And it got quite a high score, I think 94%. So it makes it a sizzler, I think, which isn't bad. I don't know if I would have given it a sizzler on revisit. But you know what? What do you think?
I ironically, and I think this is the weird thing, I'm almost the complete polar opposite. I have no affinity, no history with Dan Dare. I don't really think I might have played this back then, but I don't really remember. It rang no bells whatsoever, so I've got no overriding memory of it. I was never a particularly big fan of the comics. I never particularly got into Eagle. I was 2000 AD, so all this has no no history with me, so it has no bearing on me. So I came to this thinking 94%, looked at the screenshots, they look quite nice. And they do. And, visually, this is very nice. And I actually thought that this was a much better flick screen adventure than what we've been presented with, for a number of reasons. That were the reasons behind this. So if we take the visuals, it does a very, very good job, even from the opening title screen. This is, there's some very nice visuals in this. The backgrounds are really nice. It starts off a little bit drab and dull with just the caves, which belies what comes later.
You get some
very,
very
nice stuff. And the animation, the sprites are nice and big and chunky. I think the little thing you control is called Stripey. Is it Stripey?
That's right.
It says in the review.
Right. Yeah.
Although you don't control him, he just sort of goes around going whoop, whatever he does. And I never quite, I
can throw an apple for him, and he picks up a torch and things for you at one point.
Ah, right, okay. Well, that makes sense. So I really like the graphics. I thought they were really good. There's nice animation of Dan, the various trees that roam around. You are right, the combat is weird. It's probably the weak point, because you do just, it's kind of like some mini sort of boxing game when it happens, isn't it? It's kind of like a sort of cut price Barry McGuigan, I guess.
Yeah.
But way to describe that, Aldi McGuigan.
You got low punch, high punch, and that's it. And it's a bit hit and miss whether they really strike or not. It's just
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of a bit odd. But I really like that. I thought there's some, not the comment, but I liked it. One of the things that I did like is probably actually one of the things that you mentioned. I quite liked the emptiness. I've bemoaned being beset by random respawning encounters all the time. I quite like that you could take out the trees and then you could explore at your leisure and try and figure out, and you get a bit of time. I know but because there's two things which I hate, and that's being constantly beset by enemies. I hate that. But if that was this game was constantly besetting you with enemies with that 30-minute time limit,
Yeah.
It would be insufferable. But because you can take them out, and they're not that hard to kill sort of thing, so you just take them out, it gives you a little bit of time to just explore the environment and figure stuff out.
Because you dress up as one of the trees at one point, which is quite
cool.
You
find an outfit, don't you, and you dress up behind a thing, and it's like, oh, it's really sweaty inside, which made me laugh or something.
Yeah.
So there's a nice little bits of sense of humour in it. And you find a branch to open the electrified thing that gets you down into the main area where there's other tree and stuff going on. And so that's quite nice. And it's not that massive either. I think I didn't get that too far into it, but when I finished, I died. I mean, gave it a couple of goes. I'd done 19%. So, 1/5 of this I'd completed. So to me, that spoke of a game that was probably, doable.
Yeah.
And this it sort of put me in mind of games like Iraq and Antiriad. And I think the reason for this being quite maybe not that massive is because obviously I think the backdrops probably ate up a lot of memory because there's a lot of graphic data in there. And so they probably couldn't make the game that massive. And I think that's to its credit. Same with like Iraq, because the graphics in that were really nice. We know Antiriad, when that comes down, has got very nice graphics. And so you can only do so much with that. And I think that's to this game's credit. And it's like, you've only got half an hour limit, so we can't make it that massive. So those stupid games with 2,000 screens and stuff, just boring. This felt like a nice, tightly plotted, tightly sort of woven adventure where you could get going and get through it. And I thought it was quite a solid title. And that it's what we said about Frankie Goes to Hollywood, the sort of ability to just be at peace with the world and see it and just try and figure it out and not being bothered all the time. And I like that about this. And this, like I said, there's no history. So this is the first time I'm really coming at this game. And I thought it was good. It looked nice. The music's really nice. I know the Gang of Five have done other stuff. They did, I think they did Sorcery or something. And I think they might have made, someone said, did they do Shogun? I'm not sure if they did.
Shogun's very influenced by Sorcery. So
yeah, exactly. Someone mentioned that to us. Yeah, so it's quite possible. I don't know if they did that, but this is a game that I really sort of took to in a way that I wasn't really expecting to, because like I said, I had no affinity or connection with the comics. But I thought it was pretty good. There's some, it's not perfect. 94% is high, but I think in the grand scheme of things, this is better than Iraq.
Yeah.
And so if you're going to score Iraq in the 90s, this would be up there as well, I think, in where this stands. And I think this is a novel reworking of, and true. It felt to me that it was true to its origins.
Yes, that is very true. It's what the appeal was to me.
Yeah, and I thought that was quite good. So I was pleasantly surprised by Dan Deere in the fact I didn't know what to expect. I thought, is this going to be another flick screen menace of fun? But it's not. It's more of a... do you know what it reminded me of, though? In a sense, with the little thing following you around and everything like that Doctor Who game.
Yes, there was this kind of maybe you could see that, although more successful, but yeah. More
successful, yes, absolutely. Where the Doctor Who game didn't quite work, was a bit too obtuse and a bit too weird and had many issues. This felt like an ironing out of that concept of having the little thing following around. Like Nodes of Yes and things like that as well, with the mole and stuff.
Yeah.
So it has those influences, but for me, this was all right. I enjoyed it.
Good size sprites as well. The sprites are a good size in this game. They're not micro sprites, are they? They're quite big sprites and well drawn. And identifiable. Yes.
Those trains look great.
Yeah, they do look good.
And Stripey being the weird sort of single colour sprite.
It works.
But it works. It works under the whole concept of what's going on. And as you progress, it opens up and it reveals more of itself and becomes prettier, and the graphics look better. And it's nice. There's some good stuff here. I think there's a lot to like here, and I would recommend anyone go play this. So that was my take. So there we go. We're in agreement.
Yes.
Good game.
Good game.
Yeah, it is. Should we say our motto? Probably better than the next one.
Yeah, yes, it probably is.
Right, yeah, so that's Dan Dare. We like that. So let's move on. To The Legend of Sinbad. Sinbad went on a quest. So you play the mighty Sinbad. Sinbad, not the guy from Brookside, the window cleaner from Brookside, not him.
No.
So you are the original Sinbad, the one and only Sinbad, a hero and adventurer, and now in your own Commodore 64 game. How pleased you must have been, Sinbad, to be in this game. So what is this? I'm just going to say that this is some kind of weird knockoff, like Beachhead 2.
Beachhead 2?
Let me come to this. You'll see why in a minute. Because it's a 4-stage game.
Yeah.
Not multiplayer, but it's a 4-stage game where some of the actual scenes are very reminiscent of Beachhead 2, especially that third bloody camel scene.
Yeah.
We're trying to get things across.
Yeah, shoot the camel.
Things are coming in to kill it and stop it, and you've got to protect the camel and get it across.
Maybe.
It's very much like trying to protect the prisoners of war.
Yeah.
But not the rest. The rest is rubbish. So this basically sees there's 4 games here. Essentially, there's 4 4 levels of Sinbad, and it follows the story that you get trapped or you get kidnapped or arrested or whatever by the Sultan, thrown into prisons, thrown into the dungeons, and you have to escape. So the first scene you have to progress through is essentially a scrolling Pac-Man.
Yeah, like a
the
maze.
Best way of describing it. It's a maze type thing. So it's with monsters running down. Well, you have to pick up items, gems, and stuff which get you points. And there's these weird sort of glowing green things which grow and shrink, and you've got to move past them like shrink. I don't know what they were, but land on them and you're dead. You die a lot. The collision detection's not great, so it's really tricky to move up and down any of the passageways. I found it quite annoying, and it's not great. It doesn't look brilliant, and the animations are a bit ropey, and nothing is particularly endearing at this point. So you can skip this level because there are a series of passwords you can put in to get to the 4 levels. If you don't put in a password, you start level 1. If you put the level 2 password in, you get to level 2. Level 2 is a single screen, I want to say Mario Brothers type.
It did
affair.
feel like it, didn't it? Jump up and down the platforms.
Yeah, so you had like 3 platform levels. Guards would appear from the doors which are on every level, and you had to I guess that was his sword. You had to swipe your sword at them and try and kill them, and you had to, and then they would weirdly fly along, and I think they were diving, and it was very bizarre. And you had to. So you had to kill them, try and survive this level. If you survive that level, you move on to the 3rd level, which is very reminiscent, as I said, of the Beachhead. The third Beachhead 2 level, where you're protecting the guy walking across the stage. Hey, don't shoot me. But this time, you're protecting one of Jeff Minter's camels from birds that fly down, men that come up from the left and lob rocks at it. And you've essentially just got to get these camels, protect them as they walk, trudge slowly across the screen. And whereas in Beachhead 2, you could literally pepper the screen with bullets. This you can fire. It's more like the early version of Beachhead, where you're arcing a rock one at a time into the screen, and it's very, very slow and unresponsive.
The camel doesn't die straight away if it's hit either. It does sort of fall to the ground and glow for a bit and then try to get up again.
It doesn't, that's what reminded me of like Attack of the Mutant Camels and stuff.
Yeah, similar.
Get past this, you get to the final level, which is like a single screen. It looks like it's going to be a scrolling shoot 'em up, but it's not. It's just enemies come up from the left. There's 2 types of enemies. There's giant rock birds, which are ROC, the sort of mythical birds. They flap about up and down, some flap
multiple
about
hits
crazily,
required.
and take multiple hits to kill them and knock the rider off. And then there's actually guards on magic carpets, because you're on a magic carpet as well, flying above the city. If you hit them, you've got to hit 20 of them. If you get through them, you then get to the Sultan himself, who turns into a big dragon, and you've got to hit that 10 times, and then well done, you escape and get away. None of this is in any way particularly enjoyable. There's far too many issues with it. It's slow, it's plodding, it's far too easy to get killed repeatedly. Yes, it's great that you can skip through the levels, but none of the levels actually were worth skipping to the next one for. I didn't particularly enjoy any of them. The graphics are mediocre at best. The sounds are mediocre at best. It's like, I noticed that because it's a single load, and obviously they're not as good as the carvers at doing stuff, this suffers from the Dragon's Lair issue, in that none of the separate scenes have anything particularly going for them. Whereas, making the whole thing into something, it was just, I don't know, I didn't enjoy this, even though there was 4 different things. I just didn't really enjoy any of them. They're all knockoff versions of better things, and I didn't really particularly enjoy them. So The Legend of Sinbad was not something, and it's $9.95, 60%. I don't think it's worth 60%, if I'm honest. No, it's not a tenner. Nowhere near. Did you enjoy it any more than I did?
It was all right, I suppose. One of these kind of multi-arcade games, really. It's a bit like a 4-in-1 arcade. Graphics were okay, a bit small. Like you say, collision and movement was an issue. I didn't like, have lives or a timer, but don't have both, because that just makes the game frustrating, I think, unless that's, so it was a bit too easy to die and lose time, which meant death also. I died for no reason whatsoever a lot as well, it seemed. Collision on that first maze level was borderline brutal when you're trying to get through them weird doors that disappear and reappear. I thought the music was okay, actually. The music did actually sound quite nice and sort of, Sinbad-y. So I sort of forgive it a little bit for that. There are parts of this game you could like I think if they'd have actually trimmed it down and focused on making any one of these games better and just make it more elaborate around that. I mean, it didn't have to be a Sinbad game, did it at all? Really, it was loosely related to Sinbad.
Yes, very loosely.
But I just found that the idea of escaping what was he called, Salabim, the Sultan, and it was just all a bit much in this game that never felt like I was actually escaping from anything. It just felt like I was going through the trials of Sinbad, which would probably have been a better name for it. So for $9.95, no, absolutely not. If this had been $1.99, I'd have given it a bit more leeway, because it felt like a $1.99 game trapped in $9.95's worth of clothing. So I think out of all the 4 games, I thought that maybe the first game was quite an interesting explorer. You could have done a bit more with it. That size of graphic is about the Gauntlet size, so there's maybe some way you could have, like I say, any one of those games like that one, if you'd have taken the other parts of the game away and just made it more of that sort of stuff and made it multi-level, you might have been heading into familiar Balderdashy type territory, but at the same time, it would have made for a more interesting game where you would have felt like you was having to escape the Sultan as opposed to finding him. But anyway, long and the short of it is 60%. I think it's probably a little bit generous given the price tag, but it just felt like this will probably come out for $1.99 later in a year's time or something, and at that price, it's probably not a bad game if you want a little bit of a multiplayer game. A multi-part game. But no, it was okay, but it was just, the graphics were just a bit naff and the sound was okay, but I just found myself just thinking, look, just either stop the timer or give me lives, but don't torture me with both, because that just makes frustrating gameplay, especially if you're getting towards the end of that level 4 and you run out of time. It's like, oh really, this is just stupid. So
yep, yeah, because it's quite hard as well to avoid those bloody rocks.
It's impossible really. So it is what it is. I just think it'll go down in the history of the Commodore 64 as just one of those games that's neither good nor bad, just sits in the kind of middle ground of is neither here nor there really. So it has nothing that jumps out at you, does it? I suppose.
No, nothing. And one of these sort of multi-stage games sort of things, like I say, you're up against Beachhead 2, you're up against Beachhead, you're up against Raid over Moscow. You are,
you've got those. I mean, it's just like I say, for some reason they throw a Sinbad-y twist to it. I don't quite get why, but you know what.
Yeah, didn't work for me at all. So It's Legend of Sinbad.
Yeah, just go and watch one of the Sinbad movies. Any one of them are much better than this. Golden Voyage is always a highlight.
Yes, that is a good one. But no, just a bit of blur, wasn't it, really? Just a bit of blur.
Yep.
Can't really say much more. We can probably say less, though, about our next one.
Oh, it's way better than this.
So Graham, please tell us the joys of Velocipede 2.
I don't know if I ever played Velocipede, the first one really, but Velocipede.
Oh, I didn't.
So you play the role of Mr. Mega Fat, who needs to get to the beach because he likes to swim, and he doesn't like walking, and it's about half a mile away, so you basically cycle there. Then from that moment forth, when you walk out and get on your push bike, it turns into a side-scrolling shoot 'em up, essentially. By the way, his push bike's called the Velocipede STA. Apparently stands for Simple to Assemble. It doesn't matter what branch of nonsense they wrap this turd in. At the end of the day, it's a crappy side-scrolling shoot 'em up where you're a fat guy on a bike shooting at just naff stuff, which you can't touch. And for some reason, your bike can shoot lasers. So you got to avoid the creatures, shoot the things to get to the beach. Just rubbish. Graphics were blocky, horrible nonsense. The music was so bad. So bad and annoying. It defies belief in this one. This is in the special case of games with the sound that will make you want to set fire to things. It's just, it's an entire premise of the game is you've got to cycle to the beach. That's it. It's of no more thought than that. And it's just rubbish. So I thought it was just horrible. For $1.99, still crap. It didn't even use the full screen, or it didn't seem to on my emulator. So I don't know if that was my emulator freaking out because it was so bad, or whether my eyes were twitching so much at the nonsense that it just blocked half the screen off. So I think maybe my brain was just blocking it out, but it's just utter crap from start to finish. Waste of time. Hated it. What about you?
Yeah, there were many things that I really didn't like about this. The main one was, why does it have to keep building the bike between goes?
Yeah.
Why?
That stupid sequence.
Every time. And not just that, it has to pump up the bloody tyres and everything and then get going. And then the thing was, I read the Zapped review and the Zapped were going, this is dead easy. And I was like, I'm dying a lot.
Yeah.
It's those stupid flying saucers. I did manage to get to the second stage, but then I just got attacked by giant snails. None of this was enjoyable. And to be quite frank, it was just crap.
Yeah.
This is a simplistic, it's a Moon Patrol knockoff, isn't it?
Yeah, ish. Yeah, just not very good.
Because essentially, this is Moon Patrol, where you're playing Moon Patrol, move along the thing, avoid being shot, jump over stuff. It's Moon Patrol. This is what this is. It's a Moon Patrol knockoff. But Moon Patrol when was that? Was that 81, 82?
Oh God, it's a well early game, yeah.
It's quite old, isn't it, in the arcades? Yeah. And if you can't do a decent Moon Patrol knockoff by 1986 on a machine that's perfectly capable of doing a decent Moon Patrol knockoff, then something's very wrong with you. And for even £2, this is bad. Controlling a bike, the controls were annoying, the jump was annoying, the shooting was annoying, the enemies were crap. I put bikes are fun to ride. This is not fun to play.
I don't know why they called it Velocipede. It's like, I thought it was when I looked at Centipede variant, I thought, well, this may have some chops, but
that's what I thought. I thought it was going to be some really fast sort of centipede type thing.
Yeah, how wrong can you be?
Very, very wrong. Because there's nothing enjoyable about this game. It was awful. It's got 36%, and I thought that was too high. Yeah, it's £2, but this would be £2 bad.
Yes,
£2 thrown away because you're not going to play this for very long.
No,
you're not. You just wouldn't. You just go, that's £2 wasted.
Consigned to the Sunday best drawer, I feel.
Oh, very, very much so. That was crap. So let's not talk about Velocipede 2 anymore.
What a dog egg.
Indeed. Let's move on. To our penultimate game this week, and we've got another flight sim. We've got Strike Force Harrier.
Bloody hell.
My first note here sort of thing is it's not saying a lot, but this is the best Harrier sim we've had.
Yes, I wouldn't argue with you there.
You can actually say that. So, because what was the other one? Jet Strike Harrier, Jet Force Harrier, Jet something. So anyway, so they've gone for the Ace vibe with this. I felt. So you fly a Harrier jump jet and you fly you fly around. So you take off, you pull the undercarriage up, you go about. There's different modes, there's different levels of controls. There's pilot, commander, and whatever. There's a demo which you can watch, which is quite nice because you kind of get a feel for the game. There's practice, combat practice, or there's main main campaign. It's a flight sim on the C64. So there's a lot of blue. There's a lot of green.
Aye.
At least this has some floor stuff. So that terrible Wing Commander we played, which was just blandest of the green and blue. And there were some things that I did actually quite like in this. So it's fast. It's fairly fast. I thought it was fairly responsive.
Decent speed.
There's a lot of controls. Thank you for sending me that list of controls because that helped immeasurably. So there's a lot of controls to get on board with, a lot of keyboard flicking and trying to sort of shoot stuff and fire off chaff and all that kind of stuff when you get in menaced. You can... One thing I did like, if you fly up, I liked the fact that you can go through and above the cloud.
Yes.
Which I thought was quite nice, and it all goes white. You're above the clouds. I thought that was quite a nice touch. You don't see that. Don't think I've seen that in anything before. But I thought that was quite it's quite a nice touch. I thought, from a visual point of view. So, but what this comes down to is it's a fight simulator with, it's okay, it's fast, but it's not Ace. And Ace seems to have nailed this kind of genre better than anything else. Ace and Skyfox, they seem to have nailed this genre any better. And if you're going to make something to go into this genre, you're up against them. And if you're not going to be as good, then I don't get it. You can be almost round, but if the Ace exists, you go play Ace. Go play Skyfox if you want something more of an arcadey fast blastathon. If you want a sort of fight sim, then go play Ace. This sits somewhere slightly below that and slightly in the middle of trying to be a bit more of a flight simmy with a fightness to it, but just feels a little bit more dull and doesn't quite work for me. They rate it at 68%. It's 9.5. I think 68% is about right. I don't know. It's okay, but it just didn't have the wow factor that certain bits of Ace did, like the mid-air refueling and all that kind of stuff, which Ace just seemed to have a bit more oomph to it, which, for a C64 game I thought was quite impressive. This just is a bit, it's all right. It's okay. I didn't hate it, but I just felt I'd rather be playing Ace if I wanted to play one of these. What about you?
Yeah, this was Rod Hyde, wasn't it, who made this? And he was...
I have no idea.
Yeah,
Who's he?
Rod Hyde was a guy kind of determined to make the ultimate Harrier simulator. And this was his mission to do this, and this was his attempt. And so this is either not quite good enough as a flight simulator, but it's also not quite good enough as a sort of action shooter kind of flight, a la Ace. So it, like you accurately identified, it sort of sits in an awkward space that doesn't quite work because you can't be one or the other. And I think it can, from a graphics and from a game point of view, at least it didn't have the dullness of some of the other ones, that were the insufferable dullness of some of them. And graphics were a bit faster, which meant that it did feel a bit more pacing. If you were flying left and right, at least it felt like you were moving and you had enough reticule on the screen and enough controls to give you that kind of idea of flight. But the problem with these games, it always falls down to the same thing. If there's not much to do other than fly, you have to really like flight simulators to be into that kind of thing, because they don't represent flight very well. Now, if this was full of things to shoot at, like Ace has got things to shoot at, and Skyfox has got things to shoot at, then you cross that boundary and at least you've got things. And even if they flick across the screen in a microsecond like they do in Skyfox, at least there's things to shoot at. This, although there was things and you could release chaff and missiles and there's all sorts of fancy stuff, it just felt a little bit trapped, not quite being good at the things it was trying to be. It's certainly better than other things that I've tried, but it wasn't quite there. So for me, I don't particularly like flight simulators at all anyway. And if I was going to go to one, and if someone had a gun at my head and said, fly a plane or it's a bullet to the brain, I'm going to be loading up probably Ace or something like that. I'm not going to be aiming for Strike Force Harrier. Doesn't mean it's terrible, because it wasn't terrible. It just wasn't great at being the kind of game it wanted to be. I don't think it knew. So I think it's sort of, on the one hand, like you say, wants to be a flight simulator, and you've got more controls than you had for the flight simulator than you did in, say, Ace and stuff like that. It had more direct keyboard control. And this came out and across multiple versions as well. The controls I sent you were from the Amiga version, believe it or not, because they're the only ones I could find. But this came out on all sorts of different platforms, Amiga, Commodore 64, so it was everywhere on different platforms. And so I suspect maybe on the Amiga it probably worked a bit better. But for me, on the Commodore 64, as is always the case with these flight simulators, it's just not a great machine for simulating flight. Not in this way, anyway. So 68% is about right for the price tag as well. It's certainly better than Wing Commander. I mean, that goes without saying. So, I don't know. I think if you like flight simulators, it might be one that you'd add to your collection if you were going to go for those kind of things and try it out and compare it to the others. And of course, we've got more of these things to come because there's Gunship and all sorts of stuff later down the line. So it's not a bad old one, but it's not for me, and it's not as good as perhaps others that are already out. So that's my take on it.
Yeah. I think we're in agreement here. It's just it doesn't do enough. It's not.
No, it's not quite there.
It's not one thing nor t'other.
No, there'll be a Strike Force Harrier 2, and that'd probably be better. So
maybe, I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe Rod Hyde was happy with this, and that was that. Who knows? Ironically, it says that this was developed by Mr. Micro.
Oh.
Mr. Micro, according to Lemon 64, also were the programmers, I think, on. But I don't know, because it says Greg Duddle did it, but on Willow Pattern.
So.
I know, which is kind of strange. I don't know what that's all about. But yeah, so that's Strike Force Harrier. It's just a bit in the middle of it's in the middle of the runway, which is the worst place to be, to paraphrase Mr. Piper. All right, so that's Strike Force Harrier. What else we got left? We've got one game left this week. Let's move into it. That game is Fungus.
Yes.
Graham, did you have fun with Fungus?
What an odd little thing this is. I mean, this game is clearly created by somebody, and I don't mean to say this cruelly, who likes the idea of somebody taking mushrooms. So the idea of the game is that you live on a series of floating islands, and you like to eat mushrooms. And if you start eating mushrooms, you just start running uncontrollably. And in order to get more mushrooms, which is what you're addicted to, but at this point, you have to run and. You can't just run and jump across the islands. It's kind of a left to right scrolling game, but you've to sort of push up and down and sort of jump up and down on these levels because there's trees that will hit if you hit them. And I suppose I'm trying to think of a game it's a bit like a Crossy Road kind of side-scrolling Crossy Road almost, really. But so you've got to sort of time your jumps across these levels, these sort of islands. Avoid the trees that if you hit them, you lose lives. And when you can successfully jump onto the next island, you've got to sort of navigate your way up and down, left and right, avoiding the things that are on the islands as well, which if they hit you, they will try and kill you because they like to eat the mushrooms more than you. And so you're constantly moving. You're on the move. As soon as you eat the mushrooms, you're on the move. And you've got to try and avoid the gaps and avoid the creatures as you collect mushrooms. And that's kind of the nexus to the crux of this game. Now, it's a really odd game, this. It looks weird. It looks strange when it comes up. The way you jump is weird. You kind of curl up into a ball and fly up and down. It's kind of odd. But in the same way that Hercules has a kind of weird super repeat, fast pace, because it runs like crazy speed, this game. It's fast. So you're going to die. You die a lot when you play this game. So it means it's kind of you're playing on your memory of where the islands are and where you have to jump and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And so it's one of those games where you're going to go, it starts and you try it and you die and you start and you try and you die and you start and you try and you die. A Flappy Bird mentality. As you've said before, there's a load of other games that have come out that are Super Meat Boy, for example, that are these kind of death, 1,000 times death, but as you might progress a little 1% each time you die and you get a little bit further. And that does make them oddly addictive. And so I think for $1.99, even though the graphics are kind of basic but interesting enough, but they're not anything great, but for the sake of this game, they're fast and it runs at a crazy pace. And I'm reasonably sure the creators of this game were actually on mushrooms. I don't doubt that. Definitely shroomed out of their minds. But you know what? Out of that crazy world came this kind of super addictive, weird game, this scrolly jump game. So it's another Hercules. These games don't generally appeal to me. I don't like doing it, but for some reason I found this one quite compelling. I don't know why. Maybe I was just in a different mood. But
you had a mushroom.
I hadn't, as far as I'm aware. As far as I'm aware, no illegal substances involved. I just felt like I thought I'd give it a bit of a break because it's nothing much to look at. There's nothing sound-wise really it's going to jump at you. So it's totally reliant on its simplistic gameplay to carry off what it is. For $1.99, I don't think it was all that bad. It doesn't ever get any more different to what it is. So I don't know if it deserved 80%, but either way, $1.99 for a game that is just crazy, probably crazy addictive, and probably a good laugh if you're with a few people. And the premise would probably have you chuckling as well for a bit. So it was all right. It was all right. What about you?
Yeah, I'm the same. I mean, my first note is it's just that the score page for this says mushrooms taken.
Yeah.
Totally. I wonder how many they had making this.
Lots.
So lots, yeah. But I thought it actually looked and sounded pretty nice. I thought the visuals were quite nice.
Yeah, it's all right.
I thought the ability to tweak the colours of the level, that was quite unusual. And, you could have it different styles, but it didn't change anything, but it just gave it a different hue.
Well, it would do if that was to match the volume of mushrooms you'd taken.
Yeah. Were you golden brown, or were you fiery red, or were you plain yellow?
If your TV was kind of moving around the room, it might alter its colours a bit.
Yeah. So my main issue just came when you started to play it, really. It's very hard. I found it a bit hard to track where you were in the 3D space of it.
It's because it's frantic, yeah.
Because of the speed the game moves, and when it comes to it, there isn't that much to it. It's just an endless scroller. Because this is what this is. It's an endless runner.
Yeah.
This actually put me more in the mind of there's an endless runner where you try and hoover up mushrooms and will be seen way down the line in games like Subway Surfer, but more accurately, I think something like Jetpack Joyride.
Yes, actually, yeah, similar sort of thing.
That's that sort of thing, isn't it? Where you're just going traversing, it's just cracking onwards, and you're going faster and going forward, and it gets harder and whatever.
Yeah,
it's certainly a challenge. Just gets a bit samey, because you kind of try and learn the level. One thing I didn't like though. I didn't like having to push a direction to jump.
No, it was weird.
Just wanted to press, it was constantly scrolling, so just let me press the fire button and then, jump at the distance. I just shouldn't have to push the direction. I felt that was a bit weird and sort of caught me out on far too many occasions to be enjoyable. But yeah, £2, 80% is probably about right, because there is, I think you're right in the Hercules one more go, because it's fast and quick and the turnaround is quite pacey. This would have been better without lives. Just give you one life, go, high score, go, high score, high score. Because there's no real point. I think that when it slows itself down when it's giving you a score for the mushrooms taken.
Yeah.
But, maybe it's the come down part of the game. But I would have just preferred this just to be just that. Just tell me, play again, go, play again, go, play again, go. And that would have been better, because that would have really got the pace of this into a faster thing. Having to go back to the menu every time and maybe change the level. Give me the option to do that if I want to at any point. Pause and return to menu. But as it is, the notion of having lives felt a bit odd in this. So just give me one. That's all you need. Because it's all that really matters, isn't it? Because it's the same every time.
Yeah.
You don't start at level 2. At least I don't think you do. Is there a level 2?
I never got to it. I just kept dying.
No, I didn't either.
First 2 or 3 islands in. So.
Yeah, so exactly. So I think it's okay. It would have passed the time. And I think you're right with a few people. I'm not sure if you'd have to be shroomed off your head to actually enjoy it very much. I don't know, maybe.
I don't think you'd be able to control it or see it if you were on mushrooms. I think you'd be just, you'd be looking at the TV and then you'd look at your watch and 7 hours would have passed and you'd be like, what, 7 hours has gone by? It hasn't for me.
And I'm still playing Fungus. What is happening here?
Or you'd be sat playing the game and then you suddenly realise you'd come out of your stupor and you wouldn't have a controlling around and you wouldn't be looking at television. You'd be on the toilet thinking, what the hell have I been doing? Did you imagine that game?
Or you would be in the game.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I think you'd end up there. Yeah.
That's what you think. But yeah, it's all right. I mean, I can't get angry at this. I can't get anything at this. You say it's a bit fun.
Yeah.
It made me sort of enjoy my time. There was annoyances, but I think if they'd have just smoothed off the repeat nature of it, got you back into it faster, I would have liked this better.
For $1.99 there.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think I'd have been angry if I'd have bought this for £2. I'd have been quite nice, because it does look. I think it looked really nice.
Yeah, it's all right.
I think it had a really nice graphical style to it.
Weird, but all right. Yeah.
It is weird, but all right. Yeah, and odd. Just an odd game.
Yeah, another one.
Weirdly odd.
There'll be a special category for these odd bod games at the end of the year.
Well, we have the craziest concept, don't we? So who knows what's going to go on there? And I think that's it, isn't it? That's our last game.
It is. That's it.
That is it. So we've not got any Crapverts or anything. I think that's it. We're kind of done for this week.
We are.
There we go. That's episode, what's this? Oh, sub-episode anyway. So that's your first batch of games from November 1986 and music and everything. So we've looked at 9 games here. What have we looked at? We looked at World Games, which we loved. Room 10, which we didn't. Miami Dice, which we didn't. Jack the Nipper, which we didn't.
I'm sensing a theme.
Dan Dare, which we did.
Yeah.
Legend of Sinbad, which we were
on the fence
meh about.
So,
Velocipede, which we certainly did not.
No.
Strikeforce Harrier, which was again on the fence, and Fungus, which we thought was
surprise
okay.
interest.
Yeah, surprisingly weirdly interesting. But I think that's about it. What we got coming up next week? Well, we've got the second batch of games from this month. So we've got things like Sanction. And that's going to be an interesting discussion, I feel. It's a very highly rated game, and I don't know. Does it stand up? Who knows? We're looking at Ninja. Nomad. Jeep Command. Well, I don't know. Weird. Is that some kind of weird sort of missile moon patrol thing? I think. It's Cleanup Time, which is a terrifying title.
Good, but we'll see.
Well, maybe you would have to clean up after playing Asterix and the Magic Cauldron. That just sounds like
just played a game with fungus and mushrooms. For goodness sake.
That's what I'm thinking. So I don't know what that is about. Then we head into Deactivators, and finally we wrap up our games with Alley Cat.
The return of
Mr. Braybook. Yeah, indeed. Then we may do something with the two Trivial Pursuit, with the Pursuit games that came out this month. We have Trivial Pursuit and Mind Pursuit, so we'll have a think about if we do anything on there. We're not sure, but we may do something. We've also got a couple of Crapverts to look at as well next week, so stick with us for those. But that's it. That's it for this episode. So I think we'll call it a day there. Do you think so?
I think we should.
I think we should indeed. So as ever, I have been Adrian Mills.
And I have been Graham Ruddings.
And you have been listening to Zapped to the Past, and we will see you again next week. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Zapped to the Past podcast. We hope you enjoyed our deep dive into the world of Commodore 64 games, as well as the music, films and TV from around the 1980s, driven, of course, by the issue of Zap 64 magazine published at that time. We will return with a whole new batch of games and stuff to talk about next week. Until then, if you want to listen to or download previous episodes of Zapped to the Past, and why wouldn't you, they can all be found on our website at zappedtothepast.com, as well as being available on Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Deezer, Audible, Player FM, and, well, pretty much anywhere where we can upload them. By the way, we do always love to hear from our amazing listeners, so if you'd like to contact us about anything in the podcast or beyond, you can do so by emailing us at zappedtothepast@gmail.com. We're also active on Twitter under @ZapTother, as well as Facebook, Instagram, and most social media platforms. Just search for Zapped to the Past and you'll find us. Oh, and if you like the podcast and what we're doing, please do like, share, review, rate us. It really helps. Something, apparently. The Zapped to the Past podcast is written and produced by Adrian Mills and Graham Ruddings, and recorded at Flaky Bits 2.0 Studio. All opinions expressed are those of the writers, and while we indeed love Zap 64 magazine, the Zapped to the Past podcast is not affiliated with it in any way. Stay safe, see you next time, and remember, we play these games so you don't have to.